Flash! Ah! Most annoying man in the universe. Do. Welcome to Cutscene's worst movie ever, where today we're looking at 2023's The Flash.
No, surely this came out in 2019. There's no way this came out 2 years ago.
Surely, with the state of this movie, this came out in 2002, when we were just learning about computer effects and what we can do with them.
Well, quite appropriately, it is a film out of time. And that I would say it belongs nowhere in our timeline. I think this should be kept to another multiversal space. I don't want any part of it. I'm quite happy to just read my Flashpoint comics and enjoy the heartfelt story between Thomas Wayne and Barry Allen. Just one Barry Allen. A likable Barry Allen.
Oh, yeah.
And a really sympathetic, tortured Thomas Wayne.
Yeah. Unfortunately, what we've got is this movie. There's a bit later on where someone describes the Flash as a holdover from another regime, and it does feel like that watching it. Like it's the same with that Aquaman sequel, the Lost Kingdom, whatever it was called, where you're like, why are we still releasing these movies when the Snyderverse is very clearly dead? And we're definitely doing something else with James Gunn and Peter Safran. Why are we bothering still making these movies?
Yeah, when they're just cutting other films for tax write-offs. I'm like, why not this one, though?
Yeah.
I guess, blah, 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 Jason Momoa.
Blah, 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 Ezra Miller. Well, we will get to that, because David Zaslav apparently loved this film. So, and I think that is why. I think there's another reason why. It's because they'd spent $200 million making it, so they'd probably be like, well, we probably better had release it now because it will definitely make its money back. Spoilers.
Does it not?
Spoilers.
Whoa. Even now, even the amount of times me and you have watched this movie for this podcast.
Well, even then, it only counts as one because we bought it once on YouTube for $4.99 at a discounted rate as well, I might add.
And then because neither of us could sit through it in one sitting. We had to keep kicking each other off because only one person could watch the film at one time.
I got a text I was watching the movie on YouTube, and I got a text from Ollie being like, can you stop watching it for a moment? I need to watch it before I go into this meeting. And then you text me being like, I'm all done. You can now go back and watch it. And when I went back in, you had stopped at the exact point I had previously stopped watching it because I was like, I've got to take a break from this film. And it is literally the 40-minute mark where Flash 1 goes to get Flash 2 his powers.
Well, it's weirdly episodic, this movie. It's like that first part of the film feels nothing like the middle part. I guess tonally it does. But in terms of story, it burns through the 5-issue Flashpoint comic book series, almost like issue by issue in the key events and storylines that happen.
Like Barry Allen burns through his calories.
Yes, yeah, well, a bafflingly prominent part of his character in all Zack Snyderverse movies, well, DC Extended Universe movies. And it's just, there's a lot of plot that they run through, and they never dive deep into anything. It's all at the expense of a really juvenile humor. And I don't want us to sound Puritan like we are above juvenile humor. We love juvenile humor.
I cannot wait to see the new Naked Gun movie because I still haven't seen it yet. And of the clips I have seen, there was one that made me howl with laughter, and it was very juvenile.
But I'm having friends round to my house this Friday to watch it.
No way. Oh, that's so
didn't invite you.
Different friends. I was not invited.
But there's Naked Gun. I know you don't like him, but all three of the Deadpool movies, these are really good examples of juvenile, toilet, immature humor done smartly and with heart. Naked Gun's, it's totally irreverent. That is smart dumbness.
Yes.
And I would say Deadpool's is dumbness with a heart. You can see that even though you don't like the character.
I'm not a fan of the Deadpool character, but I can see the appeal of the Deadpool character and his trilogy of films.
This is dumb, unemotional humor.
I think there is some emotion to this movie. So I have previously tried to watch this movie, and I thought I'd made it 40 minutes in before quitting. It turns out I'd made it an hour into this movie, because I quit when I realized that Michael Keaton is not playing Bruce Wayne as Batman as I remember him doing it. I was like, oh no, you haven't carried on playing the same character. You're doing a completely different performance. You don't feel like Tim Burton's Batman. Ergo, what's the point of you being here?
Yeah, he plays Michael Keaton playing Batman.
That's exactly it.
But he says the lines.
Well, yeah,
You want to get nuts?
Yeah. So I made it an hour into this movie once, and then for this podcast I watched it in 4 separate chunks. Then this morning watched it in one go, just so I could say that I have seen it in one foul swoop.
Yeah.
Foul swoop being an apropos term.
A speed run.
A speed run, if you will. I do think that there are elements of this movie that could be good, and with a better lead and a better script, like in terms of character, I think this actually could be a fairly good time. I love time travel movies. I love movies where people mess with timelines and then have to fix their mistakes to right the wrongs of what they've done. Back to the Future is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I think that this misses so much of it because of the emotional heft of the movie, particularly at the end, where Barry has to go and effectively kill his mum to right the timeline, doesn't land because he's a prick. He's an annoying prick, and his other Flash is even more annoying than he is.
And it's quite... it shows how annoying Ezra Miller is, and Ezra Miller's portrayal of Barry.
Yeah.
Because the film's point, the thing the film is trying to do is going, wow, this Barry Allen is annoying. Here is a journey where Barry Allen reveals, through meeting an alternate younger timeline version of himself, that he is also annoying. He sees how other people see him. And usually that works. I would say that's quite a tried and tested time-traveling version of things. It's an experiment in self-reflection for the protagonist.
Yeah.
But here, there's no space given for that to deepen. And it's kept at a very superficial level. So yeah, by the time that they do go for the more gut punch things, which the plot is there for, because, as I've already said, this is based on an incredible early 2010s Jeff Johns sort of event in DC Comics, which balances the giant scope of the multiverse and timeline changes and global warfare with beautiful, tender character, heartfelt moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie does never get to that anywhere near the character stuff.
Yeah. And as I said, it's because Barry Allen as a character is an annoying prick, and Ezra Miller's performance is just... And I find Ezra Miller to be quite an irritating screen presence anyway, so I don't think that particularly helps matters.
When did that happen in the journey of Ezra Miller?
Well,
I remember when he was cast, I was like, oh, cool.
I'll be honest, I've only really ever seen him in DC movies.
You've not seen Terrible Beasts or whatever it's called?
Oh, the Fantastic Beasts.
Terrible Beasts.
I think I saw the first one. Is he in the first one?
Yeah.
Sorry, are they in the first one?
He plays a fart. I think he plays
Are they the lead in the first movie?
No, he's like a... I can't even remember what he does. Sorry, they. Oh my God, I've done it again. I'm so bad at this stuff. They played the sort of that version of Voldemort, but he's a good guy first.
Are they Voldemort?
No, they're not. This is so confusing. They're not Voldemort. I think they're a different... You know what? Should I just look?
Yeah,
should I just look at who they played?
I'll be honest. No one in the comments is going to correct us because no one has watched these Fantastic Beasts movies.
Oh, those bots.
The box office receipts prove as much.
Okay, let's go all the way back. Oh, he's in Trainwreck. I don't remember him in that at all.
I think I've also seen them in We Need to Talk About Kevin, but I haven't
That's
seen...
the one,
But
yes.
I haven't seen that in forever and a day.
It's an incredible Lynn Ramsey movie with Tilda Swinton. I still think about that movie to this day.
Fun enough, it's actually going to come up when we talk about our history section of this, because we are going to have to talk about Ezra Miller and his extracurricular activities outside of working on The Flash, because oddly enough it somehow ties into The Flash as well.
Yeah, so when was... Sorry, IMDb is really weirdly listing the order of things. It's jumping between TV... okay, so he's been acting since 2006. So he's a bit of a child star, just bit parts in Law and Order, Californication, Royal Pains. Do you remember that?
No.
As a TV show. He was in 5 episodes of that. And then 2011, which is probably considered his breakout role, he has We Need to Talk About Kevin. Mm-hmm. He plays the son of Tilda Swinton in that movie. Very loving, middle-class family, but he turns out to be a mass murderer at high school.
Yes.
That's what it's all building towards.
I'm just going to preface as well, we will do our best to get pronouns correct across this podcast.
Did I do it again?
You did.
Yeah.
Oh, multiple times within that last paragraph you just said. Then we will do our best. I will say that there is a Vanity Fair article that we're going to read from later in which people claim that Ezra Miller themselves, behind the scenes, doesn't mind if people get pronouns wrong.
Thank you for the out there. After that, the next year, they're in The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which was quite a well-received movie at the time. And then, it's a series of pretty decent role choices after that. You've got Trainwreck, you've got Stanford Prison Experiment, I can't remember. But then they get cast in the big budget thing. So Batman v Superman as the Flash, and then Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
So they are in the first one, because I have seen the first one.
Mm-hmm. Credence Barebone.
Sure.
Isn't that a Harry Potter
Is he the
name?
Fantastic Beast?
No, there's other beasts.
Did they find them?
Credence Barebone. Yeah.
All right, whatever.
But then, you think they're earmarked for big things. They're on this trajectory from sort of indie breakout performances and big blockbuster films. And then what happens?
Well, we'll get into that a little bit later on. So my big takeaway from The Flash, having now seen it 3.5 times, is I think that there is a good kernel of an idea in this, because Flashpoint is a good kernel of an idea, and it's actually a very good comic book series, and a really fun animated movie as well, that came up by Jay Olivier, I believe. That is really good. So the framework is really good. Ezra Miller is so annoying as an on-screen presence because Barry Allen is an annoying character. And like you said, the joke of the movie is Barry Allen meets someone who's more annoying than he is. So he's discovering, and I'm saying he as in Barry Allen, is discovering, oh, I actually am an annoying person. And actually, younger Flash even admits, I know I'm annoying. I know I'm obnoxious. I just get excited. And you'd say, yeah, there'd be a lesson learned from that. But the second that Barry Allen goes back to the correct timeline, he just goes back to being annoying again. So he learned nothing from meeting his younger annoying self. So no one goes on a journey in this.
And so I've seen this movie before, shortly after it came out. And then watching it this time, you forget bits. And I started to think, is young Barry the reason they're so annoying and they're not seeming to change? Is that because they become the really bad person at the end?
Yes. Which they do.
Well, but they don't enough.
Well, yeah, they're not, it's not Zoom. They don't become Reverse Flash. It's sort of like, it's kind of saying it's a Reverse Flash, but it's not Reverse Flash.
So in the end, we'll get into this if you go over to patreon.com/cutscene, we're going to do a full scene-by-scene breakdown of the movie and a review. The old Barry starts to realize he can't keep going back in time. Some things are just meant to happen. Not every problem has a solution. Awful advice for maths homework. Barry's mum.
Because quite famously, maths is all about solutions.
See how that flies in class. But old Barry starts to realize that. Young Barry, because he's more inexperienced, he's just got these powers, keeps going back. No, I can fix it, because he's kind of fallen in love with that universe's Supergirl. So no, I can save it. I can make it work. And then the sort of antagonist that's set up right at the start of the film, who's this big clunky thing, reveals himself as a future version of Barry, who's done this just a gazillion times.
It's a future version of young Barry, not present day Barry. It is young Barry specifically because they've got the scar on their cheek.
But then young Barry also comes back in. So you've got old Barry, young Barry, and older young Barry.
Yes.
I would not have younger Barry come back there. I'd have the
yeah.
complete heel turn
Yes.
of him as young Barry has now become the worst version. It is the mirror version of our Barry's worst traits.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens in the actual movie is young Barry sacrifices himself for old Barry, which kills even older Barry. So what was the agency of our Barry in this movie? Which means he doesn't have to learn. He doesn't have to go, sure, he then kills his mum. But he should have also had to confront himself.
Yes. I mean,
Which is what, like, that's why a lot of the beats fall flat at the end.
I think you're probably right. Because like it doesn't have that emotional heft that I think it is trying to aim for. It's a movie as well that's kind of trying to like balance two things. It wants to be an emotional, heartfelt movie, but also be a wacky knockabout Looney Tunes comedy where Barry Allen is saving falling babies from various like acid splashes and fire and falling knives and stuff. And I don't think it does address that balance at all. And actually, it's actually serving more than that. It's serving a master of heart, a master of comedy, and a master of jangling keys. And saying, oh, do you notice the reference that we've dropped here? Clap for us, audience. Look, there's an older Superman. Look, there's Nicolas Cage fighting a giant spider. You will remember that Kevin Smith DVD from 2005. Look at the jangling keys. And I actually think the jangling keys is the worst bit of this film.
It's that, yeah. It is certainly the bit that irritated me the most in watching it.
They give Batman two of them. And it's the same shot as well, because it's him on top of that perch. The first is like, yeah, I'm Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one...
I popped.
And then the second one is, want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
I could have done without that one.
Yeah, well, I could have done without both of them.
Oh,
really.
no, the I'm Batman reveal works pretty well. I'll defend that one.
It works in a trailer, and it was used in the trailer. It doesn't work in the movie because then you have to have the awkward pause while the audience applauds it. Like, you know, if you watch a sitcom and you remove the laughter track and you see how much dead air there is in between lines, that is what happens here. Because if you're not applauding at home, you're just staring at people staring at something for a long period of time. But we do have a lot to cover in how we got here.
No.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
oh, yeah.
In the DCEU, there's a somewhat tortured going back and forth production history.
Well, it does start in the late 1980s. Very briefly, I should say as well. Like, we're not going to spend a lot of time in the 1980s. Yeah. This is just a very fascinating thing because do you know who wrote the first treatment for a Flash movie? Jeff Loeb.
Jeff Loeb of comic book writer fame.
And in fact, it was working on that got him his start within comic books.
Was it really? Jeff Loeb wrote Hush, right? The Batman Hush comics, I think.
That was that's how they got their start within comic books. Then we jump forward. Because following the success of Batman Begins, this is now in the mid-2000s.
Oh, right. Yeah, the 15-year jump.
Yes, because in the 90s, they were only focused on making Batman and Superman, and oddly, Steel. So following the success of Batman Begins, David S. Goyer is given the option to write a script for either The Flash, Green Lantern, or Wonder Woman. And he picks The Flash. And he's going to direct that movie as well. It's going to have Wally West as the lead Flash with Ryan Reynolds playing the role of Wally West.
Oh my God. So could I just give some...
It's always Ryan Reynolds.
So that they thought Deadpool for Flash pretty early on, I think. So just if people are confused about Flash and DC continuity, Barry Allen is the original Flash. Not the original Flash, but he's the original modern Flash.
Is it Jay Garrick?
Jay Garrick, who does feature in this movie. God damn it. Was that the George Reeves Superman?
No, that's the Jay Garrick one where he's just doing this.
But George Reeves Superman on the
Superman.
top.
Yeah. George Reeves
so-called golden age when all of the superheroes are a bit naff. But Barry Allen is like the 50s onwards Flash. Mm-hmm. And Jay Garrick, weirdly, also continued his own storyline. And then they had quite a celebrated moment where both of those Flashes met each other. And it was like, that's considered one of the first actual in-continuity crossover blending of multiverses in comics history.
And Jay Garrick is the one who's got like the little silver hat thing.
Yes, and he's got like blue trousers and red top. But the Wally West is I can't get the family relation right. I think, he's Iris West's cousin.
Yes.
So Iris is in this movie. Iris becomes Barry's wife, long-term girlfriend. That's his Lois Lane, really. She's a reporter as well. Why are they all reporters? Because there's only so many
DC's
professions.
original.
And where were we? Barry sacrificed himself in the 1980s Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is, again, considered to be the first big crossover comic book event, which really kickstarted modern comic book events. But yeah, Barry died in the 1980s. So Wally has been the Flash for the last 15 years. In mainstream continuity, in the cartoon shows, you'd have Wally, you wouldn't have Flash. He took over the Flash mantle.
Yes. So we're looking to have Wally West with Ryan Reynolds playing the role because Goyer worked with Reynolds on Blade Trinity. So that's how they know each other from there.
Which Triple H is in.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was the choice between the two of them. It was going to be Ryan Reynolds or Triple H. And stupidly, he went for Reynolds.
Well, it's because Hunter said he wanted to concentrate on wrestling.
Barry was going to feature in the movie in a supporting role. You'll never guess, but the script had dark tones.
It's the noughties.
It's the noughties. Goyer left the project in January 2007, writing on his MySpace page, "I am sad to say that my version of The Flash is dead at WB. The God's honest truth is that WB and myself simply couldn't agree on what would make a cool Flash film. I'm quite proud of the screenplay I turned in. I threw my heart into it, and I genuinely think it could have been the basis of a groundbreaking film. But as of now, the studio is heading off in a completely different direction." The terms we and Warner Brothers could not agree on what would make a good Flash movie is going to be an occurring theme, a reoccurring theme as we go here.
Do we have any idea of what the plot would be?
We do.
Is it Brainiac?
I've got it right here. So it's Barry Allen in this world is like this urban myth in Keystone City, and he's got a nephew named Wally West. And then one night, Barry and his cop friend Hunter Zolomon are investigating a disturbance when Barry is trapped by Victor Vesp, aka the Turtle. Vesp attempts to steal away Barry's speed by using his Infinity Transducer, but Barry escapes by going Nova before it can happen, and he disappears into the timeline. Wally is then struck by lightning while visiting a statue of the Flash and is given the same powers. And he is then given help by some Star Labs people, including Tina McGee, her husband Jerry, and Hunter, who is now in a wheelchair. But Wally isn't ready for the superhero life. He just is using his powers for comedic purposes. And one of the things he does is he goes and plays a hockey game, and he beats the hockey team on his own. At one point, running so fast, he becomes 6 different players.
Hilarious. Very, very Spider-Man.
Well, speaking of Spider-Man, Aunt Iris tells him that these are powers, you should be more responsible with them. Vesp plants a time bomb on a Boeing 747, and Wally rescues all of the passengers, one of which is Zolomon. Vesp is then broken out of prison by another speedster named Zoom, who has a vibratory voice. Flash and Zoom have a fight. Jerry, who's one of the Star Labs people, learns who Zoom is, so Zoom kills him. And then Wally learns that it's actually Zolomon who was this speedster, and he planted the bomb on the 747, and he's doing it out of jealousy because he got Barry's powers and he didn't. And it turns out Zoom is actually getting his powers from Vesp, because Vesp is stealing away Speed Force from Barry and giving it to Zolomon.
Okay, so Barry's sort of been held captive and is...
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's manipulating Vesp. But Vesp is trying to steal Wally's speed, and he also goes supernova. Oh, no, sorry, he's stealing speed from Wally, not from Barry.
Oh, okay, so Wally's getting slower, maybe.
Yeah. He does go supernova, and he ends up in the past, meeting Barry within the Speed Force, and the two combine to get Wally home. Wally uses Zoom's addiction to speed, which makes him age, and he turns into dust. Vesp is then defeated, and Wally ends the movie promising Iris that he'll find a way to bring Barry back home. That would have been the mid-2000s version of a Flash movie.
And I'm sure it would have been like every other superhero movie of that time. Pretty forgettable.
Reading it, that is what it reads like.
That reads a bit like it could have been Daredevil. It could have been Ghost Rider.
Yeah. The criticism against it, though, is like a future Man of Steel script that Goyer will write, there's no humor to it. Like, it is all so serious. There's no levity to it. And one of the things with The Flash is that he's quite a goofy character with sort of goofy speeds, quite a goofy rogues gallery. And there's no there's no levity to it. It's treating the character like he's Batman when you should be trying to treat him like he's the Flash.
I prickled at your description of Flash and his rogues gallery as goofy. Do we want to dive into that? Why did I prickle?
Because you think that Captain Cold is
a Mirror Master
and the Turtle.
Yes, when you put it like
Pied
that,
Piper,
when you put it like that on
Rainbow
paper,
Glider,
Weathermaster. Was it? What's the weather guy? The spinning top.
We actually will come in. He's in He's in a future draft.
Yeah. So they're treated very well in
top.
the Jeff Johns series. They're really fleshed out the Rogues Gallery. It's like a more human underdog version of Spidey's Sinister Six.
Yes, I mean, because again, if we're looking at the Flash's Rogues Gallery, his lead villain is called Reverse Flash or Zoom.
Yeah.
Not the coolest sounding names in the world. My wife refused to believe that Batman had a villain called Man-Bat. She's like, there's no way. There's no way someone put that down.
These comics have been going for almost a century. It's not all going to be killer.
Yeah.
But I guess Flash is goofy, but he's central. I would say he's one of the most sci-fi appropriate superhero concepts, just because his power set is inherently time travel-y and multiversal, just the way he can vibrate or go very fast, speed up, slow down, go back in time. That's not the function of most other superheroes. So I get a kick out of it.
Oh, and as do I.
Yes.
Goya leaves in 2007. Around the same time, Whedon also leaves his Wonder Woman project, because remember, he was offered the role to do either Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, or The Flash. Whedon leaves Wonder Woman, and Goya leaves The Flash. I don't think it's any coincidence that Superman Returns came out the year prior. And I think that DC were having a bit of a reevaluating of what they're going to do with their DC movies. So Sean Levy then steps in off the back of Night at the Museum, with Chris Brancato writing a script with elements of Goya's draft. And at the same time, as part of Warner Brothers having a bit of a reshuffle of what they're doing with DC, they announced George Miller's Justice League Mortal, with plans for future spin-off movies starring that version of The Flash. So at the same time, Reynolds also confirms he's still attached to play Wally West within this movie. There's never any official, I'm not doing this anymore, but eventually someone else gets cast as the Flash and Reynolds no longer is on it.
You can see how Reynolds could do a interpretation of a speedster, because, he's quite fast talking. I can see that would be a Hollywood version, but that's not really the comic book characterization of the Flashes.
So Brancato's draft of the movie opens with Wally as a 14-year-old punk who is he's a little part-time thief, basically, steals cars because he's got a need for speed and he just wants to get these thrills. And he's staying with his uncle Barry, who is the Flash, and he falls in love with Barry's intern Linda, who is 18, but she is in love with someone called Hunter Zolomon, who is 24. Barry is then killed, and we cut to 10 years later, where Wally is now a motocross rider who's even more jaded. And he's got a friend called John Harris, who is wheelchair-bound. Linda is now dating Zolomon, and Vandal Savage is the mayor of Keystone.
Vandal Savage
is the mayor of Keystone, with an assistant called Mark Marden, who is revealed is working on weather tech.
Right, so Vandal Savage is one of the sort of eternal presences in the DCEU. He's like the first man. He's been around since the dawn of time.
That will be
more of a Batman villain.
It's a plot point coming up soon. Iris and Wally are caught in a lightning storm which kills Iris West, and while holding her body, she gives Wally Barry's ring, which has got the Flash costume inside it, and Wally is also struck by lightning, thankfully at the same time giving him Flash powers. Wally believes that Iris was actually murdered by this lightning. The lightning strike was done on purpose.
Because of the weather tech.
Because of the weather tech.
Oh, this is so naughties.
And he thinks that it could be Savage and his mistress Samantha, which turns out to be true. Savage is working with Zolomon, who helped kill Barry, and Savage is revealed to be an immortal. Wally vibrates himself back in time to speak with Barry in the Speed Force, which allows them to communicate. And there's a comedy scene where Wally and Linda are having a date, but as the Flash has to keep going, stop criminals.
Excellent. A really great sitcom trope where
Yeah.
you've accidentally scheduled 2 dates at the same time and you have to go between them,
And
often
this-
wearing different hats.
And this is where we get cameos from other Rogues Gallery villains like Rainbow Rider and Pied Piper. So it's a way to kind of get some other Rogues Gallery stuff in there. Savage Plan is
I'm sure with really leathery costumes, not the bright, great comic book costumes they're familiar with.
yeah, we should. This is the mid 2000s. This is post Daredevil. It's like Ghost Rider, Spirits of Vengeance. It's Punisher. It's that era of comic book movies. Tim Story's Fantastic Four.
Yeah. I don't think this will be a good movie. I think, again, this will be an instantly forgettable, low-effort action movie that's masquerading as sci-fi.
So Savage Plan is to lay waste to Keystone City and return it to one Adam and one Eve, him being the Adam, Samantha being the Eve. And he uses the weather tech to create cyclones to destroy the city, but Wally creates counter-cyclones to stop those. And he fights several other bad weathers and then defeats Savage, and he and Linda end the movie confessing their love for each other.
That's nice.
Yeah. Again, the criticism leveled against it was, it's not funny, but it was far more studio-friendly than Goya's draft.
Mm-hmm. Sean Levy's an interesting name, isn't he? Because, Night at the Museum, a load of just like sort of whatever films, but then he's one of the minds behind Stranger Things.
Yeah, and isn't he with Deadpool? Or have I made that up? Did he do the last Deadpool?
Oh, I don't know.
Double check that.
But I think that there might be a Sean in there, but I don't know if it's Sean Levy.
So, Deadpool and Wolverine, directed by, come on, get there quicker, Sean Levy.
Oh,
I was right.
well, there you go.
Turns out I do know some things. Anyway, Levy leaves in October 2007 due to scheduling conflicts because he was going on to do Night at the Museum, Battle at the Smithsonian. And in steps David Dobkin, who is the director of Shanghai Night and Wedding Crashers.
Oh, come on. So an out-and-out comedy and a comedy action movie.
Yes. This is where it's now going to become officially part of a spin-off from George Miller's Justice League movie.
Sure.
He told MTV News, it's designed to work as a spin-off from Justice League of America, so we're honoring the story and working in tandem with the storytelling. I think we'll just have to see how the movie does and how it works out, but it certainly would be a movie that comes after Justice League. It is interesting to note here, this is a pre-Avengers world. Avengers, it's in the works over at Marvel, but DC could have got to the punch sooner.
Did it the other way round, though? They were
They're
starting with the team-up movie.
Because Adam Brody is then cast as Wally West for Justice League Mortal, which is where Ryan Reynolds essentially exits our story. Craig Wright becomes our third writer on the project, but he signed on days before the 2007-2008 writer's strike. And because of that writer's strike, production on Justice League Mortal is paused and eventually shelved, and with it, so is The Flash. It was listed for a production release date of 2008, but I don't think Wright actually wrote a draft for it. As far as I can tell him, I don't think he actually wrote anything for it. So Jeff Johns then came on to write a 2009
My boy.
draft based on Brancato's draft, with Dan Mazu, who wrote Wrath of the Titans, coming in to do a rewrite on it.
So Jeff Johns was writing The Flash at this point. Jeff Johns this was his creative peak. He's done Infinite Crisis. He's done Green Lantern Rebirth, Sinestro Corps War, everything. This is my peak DC fandom, this 5-year period. And what do you say, 2009?
2009. So it's 2 years before he does Flashpoint.
Yeah,
They do Flashpoint.
yeah, Flashpoint is 2011, but 2010, I think, is Flash Rebirth, which brings Barry Allen back from the dead, replacing Wally. That's when he finds out that Reverse Zoom killed his mum.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what triggers the events of Flashpoint a year later. It's like a 12-issue run going into that.
That would make sense as well, because the next group of writers that come on are then going to be the ones who bring Barry as the lead character, because Jeff Johns has made Barry effectively the lead character of The Flash again.
Yeah, this time Barry was your dad's Flash.
Yeah. So, I mean, Charles Roven, who was, produced actually, we talked about Charles Roven a couple of times through this series. He did an interview with IGN where he said the problem with The Flash is that while they keep getting things, they never have a director stay on long enough to get anything greenlit and moving. Green Lantern got to move forward because it had a director attached to it and made it all the way through to the end. But The Flash just keeps hitting this point where a director stays on for a bit, then leaves. A director comes on, stays, and then leaves. And then, the writer's strike and things like that.
On Green Lantern, by the way. So I reread Flashpoint for this, and the front of a lot of the covers have right at the top Green Lantern in cinemas. Because it's the same time that April or May 2011 is the release of Green Lantern.
In June 2010, speaking of Green Lantern, Greg Berlanti, Michael Green, and Mark Guggenheim were brought in to write a draft for The Flash after they had finished Green Lantern, starring Ryan Reynolds. And because of John's work on The Flash, this is when they made the decision to move away from Wally West and move towards Barry Allen, and they handed their draft in February 2011. So they moved theirs from Keystone City to Central City. Barry is a CSI detective working on a case involving a Jane Doe. And he has a flashback to his childhood where his mother tells him, quote, "Sometimes you have to step away from a problem to see it more clearly."
That is a much better bit of advice than, hey, just give up. Just give up trying to solve this problem.
Yeah. I thought it was very interesting that they have a very similar thing here in this draft that probably will just get carried through to the eventual one we get. They also go for a walk where they see a new tower being built by Eobard Thawne. And in the present day, Barry, as part of his investigation, thinks that this Jane Doe was killed via extremely cold temperatures.
Oh, Captain Cold, Leonard. You think Leonard's a dumb name for a character? Eobard.
Eobard Thawne. Well, the joke of that is it's a future name.
Yes, it's quite a common name in the future from where Professor... Thawne.
Where Thawne's
Reverse Flash is.
Yeah. It's like a few people have pointed out recently that you now can't name a child Kermit, Elmo, or Grover. But like 50 years ago, those were just common names.
Yeah.
There's a president called Grover. He gets sent some data about the victim from a Star Labs worker named Valerie. And he goes, Barry then goes to a party held by Iris West, where it turns out she is getting married to a dude. There's a cameo from a young Wally West during all of this. And then back in his apartment, you'll never bloody guess, he gets struck by lightning. He's taken in by Thawne and Valerie to discover his powers and work on them. We learn that the serial killer is called Leonard Snart, or as the press dub him, Cold.
Oh, just Cold? Not Captain Cold.
It's 2011. You can't call him Captain Cold.
As the Dark Knight Rises is coming
Exactly.
out. No, cowards. Call him Captain Cold.
And Thawne tells Barry that they can work together to make a particle accelerator, which would mean that Barry could travel through dimensions and visit one where his parents are still alive. Barry saves a train of people from Captain Cold. And while investigating the footage, because Iris is like a blogger, it's 2011, she's a blogger, she like zooms in and enhances the footage, she sees like a foot coming out of a blur.
Right.
So she thinks there's actually a speedster superhero here, but Barry's like, no, you're crazy, that could never be a real thing, right? He sleeps with Valerie and then discusses with Iris
Lad.
He believes that Cold is not actually the main killer. He's a hired gun, and there's a bigger puppet master at work here. Cold freezes Iris's fiancée to near death, and Flash beats him, and Cold is arrested. Barry and Cold then have an interrogation scene in a prison.
Very popular in this time after the Dark Knight.
Yeah, and Cold warns Barry that someone else is in the room, and Barry gets punched by another speedster. He learns this speedster is the one who killed his mother and framed his father. Valerie also learns that the particle accelerator that Thawne is working on is actually stealing Barry's speed force, and Thawne, standing up from his wheelchair, kills Valerie.
He did the Kevin Nash spot.
Yeah.
He's not in the wheelchair.
But that happened in the first draft as well.
Did it?
Yeah, so like that, they actually do this in the Flash TV series as well. Thawne standing out of the wheelchair to reveal that he really is Zoom. Barry, scared Iris will get hurt, gives up being the Flash. However, all the criminals get released and start planting bombs all over the city, so he becomes the Flash again. Thawne reveals he's from another reality where he has mortal enemies with the Flash, so he's traveled to this one to systematically destroy Flash's life, which is very Daredevil Born Again in a way.
Not a future version of him, but an alternate timeline.
In none of the drafts that we've discussed so far, Thawne is from the future. He is actually just a present-day person. But in this one, he is at least from a different timeline reality. Flash kills Cold while trying to save Iris, and then Thawne is collapsing this reality, but Flash stops him, and in a post-credit sequence, bumps into Green Lantern, presumably to be played by Ryan Reynolds.
Brave and the Bold.
Yes.
Good team up, Flash and Green Lantern.
So the criticisms against this script were it's far too cookie cutter. Like it's too template. A lot of
I
people,
quite enjoyed that version compared to the other ones.
a lot of people called it derivative, including Captain Cold, who was basically just like, he's described as a derivative version of Heath Ledger's Joker.
Yeah, and the bombs going off around the city, that feels very Batman. A lot of it feels very Dark Knight trilogy.
Exactly, yeah. Like it said it got far too caught up in the Dark Knight of it all. Like it's trying to be too serious.
Yeah.
It's trying to be this, that, and the other. I mean, it doesn't matter anyway because Green Lantern came out and bombed at the box office. So guess what? You're being booted off this project. That they do go on to create the Flash TV series.
Yeah. Which is, full transparency, I have never watched.
I've watched the
the first couple of episodes.
I've watched the first season of.
Yeah.
And I was just waiting for them to do Flashpoint.
People,
which they eventually did.
People love the Arrowverse.
They did. I really enjoyed Arrow. I
And
watched like 5 seasons of Arrow.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I just never got into it.
I liked it because it did actually embrace goofy sides of things. They would call him Captain Cold in that, and they would embrace like they had Gorilla Grodd in the in the Flash TV series. So now we enter into the DCEU era of the Flash, where Warner Brothers, as we've covered quite a few times across this series, announced the DC universe in 2013 with plans for a Flash movie in 2016, though that is then pushed back to 2018. Berlanti is still on board to produce while also developing the Flash TV series within the Arrowverse, but does say the two ideas are not going to butt heads with each other. They're not going to cross over. They're not going to butt heads. Ezra Miller is cast, and James Wan is offered the chance to direct Aquaman or The Flash, and he picks Aquaman.
Bold choice.
Well, presumably so he doesn't have to work with Ezra Miller. That's my read on it.
Well, Ezra Miller at this point, it seems like he's the next hot thing. Yeah. I don't know when he went off the deep end.
Well, we'll come on to that in a
okay. But yeah, a brave choice for James Wan, because Aquaman was a joke before this.
Well, in 2015, we nearly got some very cool people on the project because Phil Lord and Chris Miller came in to write up a pitch, but instead opted to direct Solo, a Star Wars story, which worked out great for them.
Yeah, of course. They weren't ready for the big time, kids.
No, they were not.
They did start, and I think 30 days into production, they were sort of kicked off, essentially removed because they were having too much fun and using improvisation.
Yeah.
Which you can't do on a production of that level.
That's why you bring in Ron Howard.
Yeah.
He could call action. He could tell you to stop, and you can go home.
It'll be delivered on time and on budget.
On budget. Miller said before the release of the 2023 Flash movie, because their pitch has never really come out of what theirs is. It did involve time travel, but it was not a multiversal story. So I think it's safe to say that this is its own unique thing. There are definitely some things in the trailers that I've seen that were similar to what was in our treatment, but I'm certain that from what I now know of the story, it seems quite different from what we had. And Lord adds in the same interview, a lot of our treatment was much about how much food he has to consume.
Oh, I bet they could have made that work, though. I bet, from the directors of Cloudy with Meatballs.
Yeah, Cloudy with Meatballs. What a
They are excellent food-based comedians. They're excellent comedians. The one shining thing from that is that we did get the Spider-Verse movies, because that was their thing. Until they were removed from that as well. If you've not seen it, please go and watch Clone High. Which is their MTV series, their first thing they ever did. It is perfect.
I still am very sad we never got to see their 21 Jump Street Men in Black crossover movie. Why did that never happen? That is just one of those weird what ifs. Could have happened. So anyway, look at all these names we've had on previously. Do you know who we need to turn to next? The guy behind Pride and Prejudice and Zombies and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, Seth Grahame-Smith, steps in to direct this movie.
Yeah. That's it was a weird style at the time, wasn't it? And they would perform fine at the box office, which I guess is why they kept getting made, because Abraham Lincoln, and he's a vampire hunter.
Funny, right?
Hansel and Gretel, but
they're witch hunters.
They hunt witches.
Bit wacky, huh?
Wow.
Sorry, zombies and pirates. Well, I guess who's getting greenlit now?
Cowboys and aliens. I would never have thought these two could coexist in one film. Yeah. It was a dark time, I guess.
It's internet humor. That sort of
snakes on a plane. Random.
That's it. random was, like the raison d'etre was, was the that was the style at the time. So yeah, people like Seth Grahame-Smith got a bit of a career, not a long running one, right? But then he worked with Jay Oliver, who was the director of the animated Flashpoint Paradox movie, and they worked on storyboards together, and it was them working together and getting storyboards that officially got The Flash greenlit for its 2018 release. And then Seth Grahame-Smith leaves the project in April 2016 over creative differences. Then, of course, Batman v Superman comes out, and it all hits the fan. Deadline has confirmed a major reorganization at Warner Brothers regarding the approach to the still-building film series based on its DC Comics properties. Warner Brothers declined comment, but sources with knowledge of the reorganization have confirmed that DC Chief Content Officer Jeff Johns, who helped establish the brand's presence on television, and Warner Brothers EVP John Berg will now co-run DC Films. While DC Films has long been a production banner within Warner Brothers, it will now exist as a formal division of the studio seeks a course correction after the mixed response to Batman v Superman earlier this year. However, while the WB move is a major step for the studio, it is, we're hearing, not a reactionary one. DC Films is not...
It was always planned.
DC Films is not being created as a clone of Marvel Studios, nor does Warner intend to have a copy of the Marvel method of making movies, which is to say, Johns and Berg won't be occupying a similar role to Kevin Feige at Marvel. We're being told that the so-called director-driven approach Warner Brothers has touted since first announcing the DC Extended Universe is very much still in effect. We'll ask David Ayer what he makes of that. So Rick, I'm going to try my best with this. I've been...
Oh, yeah.
Rick Famuyiwa?
Yes,
I believe it is.
Yeah, I always read it. I don't pronounce it out loud, but he's the guy behind...
Dope.
Dope.
Yes, that was like the big hit that he had prior to doing
wasn't he
this.
True Detective as well?
Might have been, I don't know. But I Dope as the film. It was.
Oh, okay.
Whenever like they talked about it, it was like the guy who did Dope is now directing this. So he was hired in June 2016 because Warner Brothers believed that he could connect with younger audiences. He would still use Seth Grahame-Smith's script, and Lord and Miller were actually still attached to produce at this point. He is actually the guy that cast Kiersey Clemons as Iris West.
Huh.
Which is mad because I think in total she has about 5 scenes across 2 movies.
Yeah, I thought she would be a much bigger part of The Flash. I'm wrong, by the way. That's a different Rick.
So Flash's 2018 release is instead given to Tomb Raider, and despite being greenlit, doesn't actually have a release date at this point. Famuyiwa completes his draft in September 2016 and says in an interview that Cyborg and Wonder Woman will have cameos within the movie, and Briley Crudup is set to reprise his role as Harry Allen following the cameo he filmed for Justice League.
How did that go?
We'll come on to that later.
So in Flashpoint, Cyborg is essentially the main superhero of this new timeline.
Yes.
So he's the Superman, for instance.
Yeah. Not in Central City, though, because that's Citizen Cold.
Yes. But so I guess that might be why Cyborg was going to be so prominently featured in this film.
I think there's also another reason, which we'll come on to in a little bit, actually.
Booyah.
So the plot follows Barry Allen's evolution. This is according to like a Reddit writer by fan of the script. The plot follows Barry Allen's evolution both as a hero and as an investigator. At the start, he still fights crimes in secret and is only concerned with reinvestigating his mother's case. In the end, he becomes a public hero and proves himself as a forensic scientist. The villains are Captain Cold and Golden Glider, who are hired to steal the components of an electromagnetic weapon from Star Labs. Captain Cold has an exoskeleton with cryogenic weapons, and Golden Glider has a device that allows her to glide through solid matter. There's a major subplot about Barry trying to prove that a reformed criminal was framed for murder that he didn't commit, and exposing corrupt cops who have been fabricating evidence for years, including for Barry's father's case. Iris West helps Barry expose the corrupt cops because her brother was also framed and died in prison, and she bonds with Barry over losing people to the corrupt system. She knows that Barry's powers from the start after he saved her in Justice League, and she is the one who names him the Flash.
Okay. Much like how Lois Lane named Superman.
Cyborg helps Barry investigate the rogues and joins in the final battle to fight Golden Glider. Barry's father, Harry Allen, helps Barry expose the corrupt cops by saving an informant who is locked up with him in Iron Heights after the cops attempt to have him killed. The supporting characters include Roman Burke, the leader of the corrupt cops, Alex Petrov, Barry's boss at the crime lab, who's working with Burke, and a few other people who aren't that interesting. And actually, more interestingly, Lex Luthor, who is revealed as the Rogue's employer at the end of the movie.
Oh, so that would be a Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor?
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
There are 3 major action scenes, the opening with Barry fighting crime across Central City and foiling the Rogues before getting their weapons, and a second confrontation where the Rogues nearly kill the Flash. In the final battle, Barry and Cyborg fight the Rogues who use the electromagnetic weapon to cause several disasters across the city that Barry and Cyborg must deal with, whilst also having to protect Iris from the corrupt cops. Golden Glider dies when her device malfunctions and disintegrates her. Captain Cold blames the Flash and ends up in jail, but Luthor breaks him out and recruits him for his Injustice gang.
Yes, Cold's in there. Cold's got a code. If anyone's like, why does Ollie like Captain Cold, or people like Captain Cold so much? It's because he's got a moral code.
Having proved they fabricated evidence against Henry, Barry convinces the judge to grant Henry an appeal and overturn his sentence. Barry's time travel in Justice League is referenced, and he briefly reverses time again. He also learns how to phase through solid objects, becomes invisible, creates vortexes, moves so fast he's in 2 places at once, and bring others into his speed aura. Reverse Flash is only alluded to in a nightmare that Barry has about his mother's death, and a brief moment when he steps into the Speed Force and senses that someone else is there with him.
That's a cool little tease, I think, for a movie. There's enough going on in the film without that having to be a dominating thing.
So, I mean, very interestingly, there's a bigger part around this, right? So the reason why, the sort of speculation is where this doesn't happen and sort of falls apart. In October 2017, Famuyiwa leaves the project over, you guessed it, creative differences. He was quoted in a statement to The Hollywood Reporter, "I pitched a version of the film in line with my voice, humor, and heart. While it's disappointing that we couldn't come together creatively on the project, I remain grateful for the opportunity." Sources say that the Dope's Helmer vision of making a movie was more edgier. It clashed with the studio's take. Again, bringing that back up. And that is because the subplot with the corrupt cops was about white cops killing black kids.
Right.
And Warner Brothers, the speculation, the reports are, felt that was a bit too political in 2016, and maybe we should just avoid doing touching that one when we're trying to make a studio movie that we want to make $1 billion.
Yeah.
So we move into Jay Oliver also leaving the project because he goes on to work on reshoots for Wonder Woman, and he did an interview in 2023 as part of a 10-year retrospective of Flashpoint Paradox where he revealed Rick's movie wasn't a Flashpoint movie. Originally, there was supposed to be just Zack's 5 movies and 1 side movie, which ended up being Suicide Squad. But after the success of Man of Steel, Warner's decided to go all in on the cinematic universe. Rick's movie was going to be a series of films just like Aquaman. I think all of those films, they were planning to be trilogies. And the idea of Rick's movie was to set up Zoom as the next big threat for the DCEU.
Yes.
Quote, Rick's movie was
for the whole universe.
Rick's movie was laying the groundwork for Zoom as the big daddy of the DC universe. It was Professor Zoom pulling the strings because he had come from the future to basically F with Barry. In the Flash movies, Zoom would be the villain in the background, but also in the ancillary other movies, you would see some influences of Zoom and the rest of the Justice League. Inverse, which is who I did the interview with, writes, "This would have all come to head in a Flashpoint movie where Zack Snyder revealed previously at a 2019 fan screening would have wrapped up his Superman focus saga and serve as a reboot for the entire franchise."
Yeah, because Flashpoint, if you don't know, in comic book history, that was the big universe-wide reset into totally new issue ones in 2011, which was called the New 52, which everyone hates but me and Laurie. So you're saying the whole Dark Side Invasion stuff?
Once that ended,
then it would have been the reverse Flash saga.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's essentially their phase 2 would be Reverse Flash. And now that would have then been 10 years, and that would reset the universe.
Wow.
So Oliver is quoted here, "At the end of Zack's Dark Side quadrilogy, or whatever it was, we'd end up doing Justice League Unlimited version of the Snyderverse, and then you would flip it. You would do a Flashpoint Paradox. Everyone who's friends are now enemies, and it's a world you don't want to live in. You can reboot the universe and introduce a new cast that way, because after 10 years, the actors would need to go on it and do something else. I wanted to really capture the grimness of the comic, but also lay the groundwork for adapting it as a Marvel-like action film. I just thought it would have been fantastic. Can you imagine Jason Momoa fighting Gal Gadot and them having that love story? All of it's a missed opportunity. Being part of it was so excited, then having to shift gears and pivot. It's kind of sad. I would have loved to have seen it get to this point." The film's put on hold while Ezra Miller's 28th film, Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, is being filmed. So, got to pause this movie because Ezra Miller's gone off to shoot something else.
So as in they've already done the first Fantastic Beasts movie. This is the second one.
Yes. In January 2017, Joby Harold is brought in to do a page 1 rewrite of The Flash. Ignore everything else. Page 1 rewrite.
Mm-hmm.
Ignore everything that Rick's done. Ignore all of this Flashpoint paradox stuff. Page 1 rewrites. Warner Brothers approached Robert Zemeckis, Matthew Vaughn, Sam Raimi, Mark Webb, Jordan Peele, and Ben Affleck to direct the movie.
Jordan Peele.
And all of them turn it down.
Oh.
Jordan Peele at the same time also turned down the live-action Akira movie as well. I think there was a lot of buzz around Get Out.
Yeah.
This is before Get Out had come out, but there was a lot of buzz around Get Out, so he was being offered a lot of projects.
It's a cautionary tale too, if you're a director and a writer-director particularly, and you've just made a really breakout independent hit, the studios want your blood to use on their big corporate thing, and they want to flatten you out, Colin Trevorrow. Gareth Edwards, unfortunately. But so credit to Jordan Peele for no, I'm not going to take on the really exciting IP.
Take the big payday.
I'm going to go and make what I want to make, which is Us.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Which is incredible. And he would never have been allowed to do that in the studio system.
At the July 2017 San Diego Comic-Con, it is announced that The Flash is now titled Flashpoint. And Dan Mazeau has returned to help write the script, with Jeff Johns saying that Flashpoint means that they can now do a Thomas Wayne version of Batman. So who comes cropping up but Jeffrey Dean Morgan being like, I'll do it, I'll play that role.
It'd be perfect for it.
Unfortunately, in January 2018, Walter Hamada is appointed to oversee the DCEU, and with a brand new head comes a brand new vision. He brings in John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein to direct Flashpoint.
To direct.
The duo themselves were the writers behind Spider-Man Homecoming, which I'd imagine is one of the reasons why they wanted to bring them in.
Mm-hmm.
They were also on the shortlist to direct Homecoming before Mark Webb got the gig. They also became the film's right. They actually renamed the film back to The Flash. So Flashpoint was actually a quite short-lived name for it. Variety reported the studio had initially courted Ben Affleck to return to the director's chair, but he passed on the gig. By tapping Daly and Goldstein, the studio seems to eye a comedic tone for the film, given the studio's directing background on movies like Vacation and the upcoming Game Night starring Jason Bateman. This is probably the first time, I think, where you've got writers who are in line with also what the studio want, which is a comedy movie.
A sort of comedy. They want Deadpool without the actual swearing R-rated and satirical bite.
Exactly. So filming was set for March/February 2019 with a 2021 release date, but unfortunately, Ezra Miller had filming conflicts with Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore.
Is that the third one? Oh my God, that franchise is still going on. Sorry, could I just pause you on John Francis Daly?
Yes. He of Freaks and Geeks fame.
This is what I was going to tell you.
This is what I know him as. I know him as the little nerd from Freaks and Geeks.
So I'm just, clicking through Wikipedia, The Flash, written by, what else did they write? And I'm looking at this picture on the John Francis Daly Wikipedia page. I'm like, God, this guy looks familiar. He looks too handsome to be a writer.
Doesn't he look like the little kids?
It's Lindsay's brother.
Yeah.
In Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah, quite a few cast actually end up in the MCU. Because the other geek in that is in Spider-Man.
As the maths teacher, yeah.
And so is Linda Cardellini.
Yes, of course.
She's Hawkeye's wife. So, anyway. So as I said, finally, we've got a studio who want a comedy, and you've got two comedy writers and directors who are going to make a comedy. Everyone's on the same page, apart from Ezra Miller. Because Ezra Miller enters in as the new writer for The Flash.
I didn't know this.
The Hollywood Reporter reported, in a bid to keep himself involved as the Scarlet Speeder, actor Ezra Miller is taking a hands-on approach with The Flash. Miller is taking a stab at writing the script for Warner Brothers, the Hollywood Reporter has learned. He's teaming up with Grant Morrison, the acclaimed comics author, to pen a draft that could determine if he stays on as the star. The development has been bubbling as a clash of creative visions. John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein have been on board the project since January 2018 and have taken a light-hearted approach to the material. And as sources note, that is the general track favoured by Warner's, which scored a billion-dollar hit with Aquaman going for the fun spectacle route and are seeing strong buzz on Shazam, which is also wearing its superhero is fun on its sleeve.
Yes, two, I would say, the more celebrated movies of the DCU, unexpectedly as well. And yeah, they've done Horrible Bosses and Vacation and stuff like that. But in 2023, they were the writers and directors of Dungeons and Dragons,
Yeah.
which have you seen it?
I still haven't seen it. No.
It's a really good action movie.
Yeah.
And it's funny and the characters have heart. That is a really clear example of how those two people, I think, could have made, here's a geeky thing, but we've turned it into a fun adventure, good action, good characters, blah, blah, blah. It won't be Guardians of the Galaxy or Deadpool or the greatest film you've ever seen, but it'll be something solid and fun and enjoyable and hopeful like Shazam.
So Warner's like, look, Shazam has got a lot of buzz around it. We just scored $1 billion with Aquaman because those are going for fun and frolics. Miller is said to want a darker take on the material.
I hung my head when you said he's teamed up with Grant Morrison. And I love Grant Morrison. He might be my favorite comic book writer of all time. Sorry, they might be. So sorry, everybody.
Yeah. We do try. We're not doing it on purpose.
Yes. But they also have this tendency to get in creative relationships with bonkers celebrities. So Robbie Williams, when he was going through his, rude box, put all the magic spells on the front cover of my thing, I'm into aliens period in the mid-noughties, it was because he was talking to Grant Morrison.
Was it really?
Yes, Grant Morrison did a lot of the spells that are on the front cover of that album. And then Grant Morrison seems a little bit annoyed that those spells didn't work. So Grant Morrison has previous of, getting in creative relationships with dodgy celebrities.
So the two sides have been working on a compromise since last year, but Miller took the initiative to tackle the story himself. He partnered with Morrison, with Warner's hiring the two to write a script. It's a rare move for an actor to be so invested in a superhero project that they switch hats, but Miller sees himself deeply committed to the character. The two sides, the script could be submitted to the studio as early as next week. But there might be a lot riding on it. If Warner chooses against Miller's take on the hero, the actor could part ways with the project. Additionally, and fittingly for a hero who races to beat the clock, there's a countdown scenario here as well. According to one insider, Miller's holding deal on Flash expires in May. Despite the clashes on Flash, Miller remains a presence on the Warner Brothers lot.
How did they have a holding deal? Were they a producer?
I actually don't know. I don't. They might have been.
Like, how can Ezra Miller hold up a big production?
Yeah, I actually don't know. Morrison told Rolling Stone in 2022, as far as I remember, Ezra just wasn't quite happy with what they were getting at the time. And Ezra had a lot of ideas. They came to me with a book of ideas, and then we worked together. It was really just the two of us. They came over here to Scotland and hung out, and we wrote this thing. I really liked it. Warner Brothers only gave us 2 weeks. It was cruelty, it was hardcore. We had to be like The Flash and get this thing done, and they were looking for something quite different. I got paid and it was good fun. It didn't do the job they were looking for, which was to franchise things and set things up and bring other characters in. It was a Flash story, and what they wanted to do was multiverse and stuff like that. And in the end, that's what they got. So someone who claims to worked at Warner Brothers at the time wrote a post on Reddit about what they said the script was about. They wrote, while the script is not being used for the 2022 film, it is still a fascinating take on a standalone Flash movie that really digs into Barry Allen's character whilst telling a much heavier story. It's clear that Ezra is a fan of the original direction of the DCEU. I really enjoyed reading this at my time at Warner's. I know the WB is going for something more commercial, and it's a shame that Ezra and Grant couldn't get to do what they wanted. It shows how passionate Ezra was about the project. He was interested in having Cyborg in there, but Grant insisted in a standalone Flash movie for his solo outing. Although there does seem to be some really cool Easter eggs. There's a bit where he gets a nod to the Flash Museum, which he could build in his hideout. We see mementos from other films like the Batarang from Justice League and the Boomerang from Suicide Squad. It's a very detailed script, and it's a shame that they tossed it out.
Yeah, so Morrison, their favourite superhero, they've said, is the Flash. So it makes sense to go to Grant for that.
So I have found a write-up that someone claims like this is the write-up of the script. I'm not sure how much I buy it though, because Grant Morrison, all of his interviews said like we basically did our version of Back to the Future with the Flash. And the write-up that's on Reddit, there's only one time travel sequence and it's right at the end of the movie. So I'm not sure how much I buy that this is the write-up for it. But for what it's worth, the main villains of the movie are Lisa Snart,
Okay. Well, usually she is in hospital, and that's the heart bit for Captain Cold, because he's trying to raise this money to help his comatose sister.
It's Lisa Snart and Sam Scudder, who is Mirror Master.
Right.
They break Leonard Snart out of prison and rebuild his gun. Barry is framed for a murder within all of this. And then you find he goes into the Speed Force. He's attacked by a zombified version of the Flash, and he's saved by another speedster who looks a lot like Jay Garrick.
Ooh.
What
is he doing this?
Smiling at the camera. The final scene is Lisa Snart in prison, vowing revenge for her brother, who Flash kills, and Flash saying that his mother's
kill Leonard.
They kill Leonard in this script, at least according to this write-up for as well. And Flash said that his mother's real killer is still out there, setting up Reverse Flash for a future movie. Warner Brothers turned down the pitch, but wanted to retain Miller on the project, so they kept him on as the Flash.
Damn.
And then Daly and Goldstein left the project in June 2019 over your friend of mine, Creative Differences, and they left that to work on the D&D movie that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Only a couple of weeks later, The Hollywood Reporter said that Warner Brothers have hired Andy Muschietti, the director of It, to direct, along with Christina Hodson doing a write on the script. She had done Bumblebee for Universal, but more importantly, Birds of Prey for Warner Brothers, and was also set to write Batgirl.
Birds of Prey is fun. I
really like it.
I don't think it's... No one remembers that movie for a reason.
I do. It was the last movie I saw before pandemic.
It's fine. It's a bit of fun. But Andy Muschietti, is that how you say, or Muschietti? I don't know.
Muschietti, I'm not entirely certain.
The Italian pronunciation. But yeah, it chapter one. Oh, is he really? Okay. Well, that makes sense. I think there's a lot of Italians who.
Yeah.
I know that. Well, and Wales, weirdly, that's a thing. There's a lot of Italian surnames in Welsh families. But yeah, it chapter one just blew my mind when I saw it.
It's so good.
And that's like his big breakout movie. And just like we spoke about with Jordan Peele, hey, then the big studios come a knocking. Mm-hmm. Do you want to sell your soul and slap your name on this thing so we can pretend to be youth and hip?
Yep. And It Chapter 2, much like the second half of the book It and the TV movie, not as good.
Yeah, I think we can just leave it at Chapter 1, can't we? Especially...
but not that ending.
Yep. Let's not talk about the ending of the book.
There's a reason why that bit's not in any of the adaptations they do. Anyway, The Hollywood Reporter write that Goldstein and Daly's exit is described as a voluntary, according to multiple sources. The pair have been with the project since January 2018, writing the script and developing it to direct. At one point, the project seemed like it's heading towards a start date in late 2019, but months of tension over creative differences bogged down the project, with the duo deciding it was time to move on and find different opportunities. The tensions surfaced around what kind of take was best fit for a Flash movie. Miller, who's played the character since Batman v Superman, favoured a darker approach, while Goldstein and Daly, the pair who wrote Spider-Man Homecoming, were behind the comedy. They wanted the opposite. The two sides have been working on a compromise since last year.
So you've got Ezra, who wants a darker tone, and we've seen that can work for the Flash, because the Snyder version of Justice League, the Flash is still obnoxious and he makes those jokes, but fits far better. Like, the character works a lot better because it's not all the time.
Yeah.
But then you've got the writers, Daly and Goldstein. They want to make a more light-hearted Spider-Man Homecoming one,
which is what the studio wants.
How do we get what we got, which I would say is neither of those things?
I was thinking this as well.
It's a really, like we keep saying, juvenile Deadpool without the heart.
Yeah.
Like, just schlockfest.
Because this doesn't feel like, if Miller's whole thing is about wanting this darker approach to the movie, I don't think Miller gets that within this final version.
Yeah. No, not even close.
Not even close, because the film, if anything, the darker heart of the movie is the third most important thing behind the comedy and key jangling cameos. Anyway, by the end of 2019, Warner Brothers had scheduled The Flash for release in January 2022. Muschietti told Comic Book in 2023, "We almost started from scratch. We did have a base of the story that was inherited from previous iterations. The studio knew that they wanted to do some kind of interpretation of Flashpoint, but I didn't want that to be a literal translation of the comic book. I respect the fandom a lot, but I think the fandom would also expect new things from a movie. Just a little interpretation of Flashpoint, the comic, would fall flat in my opinion, so we populated with twists and turns to make the story a little more fun."
But it is broadly Flashpoint.
Yeah, but is it though? So it's the basic things are Flash going back in time to stop his mum from being killed, Reverse Flash
Mm-hmm.
it's not really Reverse Flash within this movie. Superman being held underground.
So I'll tell you by the issues. First issue is Barry wakes up in this new timeline. The second issue is Barry meets Thomas Wayne, realizes that Bruce is dead in this one. I think issue 3 is Barry trying to get his powers back because he doesn't have his powers in this one. So he takes the hit of lightning twice. Then the 4th one is them going to break Superman out of an American prison.
Yep.
And then the 5th one is the big showdown
between the Atlanteans
and the Amazonians on Great Britain.
So the only things that are here from that in this movie is Superman, or in this case Supergirl, being held underground and then taking them out and getting them hit by sunlight and then becoming Superman/Supergirl.
I feel like they try and have their red sun as well.
Yeah,
because they put it in Russia.
Yeah, and Flash getting his powers back by being struck by lightning.
Yes, yeah,
and
meeting a Batman.
Yes, but it's not Thomas Wayne. It's
still
Bruce Wayne.
The structure of the movie, which is, I wake up somewhere new, I meet a Batman, I get my powers back,
I rescue Superman.
That's fair. There's a big fight.
Is there?
That's the structure.
So in June of 2020, The Hollywood Reporter writed that Michael Keaton is in talks to return as Batman.
Oh, sorry, what date?
June of 2020.
So the movie has started to be written, this new one.
This new version of the movie.
And this is where they probably came up with the idea.
Yeah.
Start talks. Which, as much as we can criticize the key jangling, god damn, I loved it. Even though it's not Keaton doing Batman.
I know. I was saying in the office before we came down to record is that I was really enjoying some of the action sequences. And then I realized what I was enjoying was the Batman music from 1989's Batman. Yeah. I'm like, oh no, you've tricked me. I'm just enjoying you using this music.
Yeah.
You've tricked me with Elfman. That's what you've done. They write, actually, the Hollywood Reporter, if a deal makes, Keaton won't just return for The Flash, but possibly several other DC-orientated film projects. Sources tell The Hollywood Reporter that the role being envisioned for the veteran actor is akin to the role being played by Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, something of a mentor or guide or even a string puller. Batgirl is one of the projects in development that could fall into that category.
Oh, I like that, because the idea is in the Flashpoint universe, Thomas Wayne is the master strategist.
Yeah.
That's why they want him so much on their team to take out the
Cyborg and the rest of the good guys.
Yeah. Thomas Wayne, played by Michael Keaton.
They're not doing Thomas Wayne. They're bringing him back as Bruce Wayne.
Okay, I think that's a shame. I still like the idea that he's the Nick Fury glue, but then you can't have the moment of Bruce meeting his father.
Yeah,
and that's the bit. That's the money shot. That is, if you've not read the comics, that is essentially the payoff to the whole of Flashpoint.
Yeah.
Is a letter shared between the two.
So Keaton was going to do this. He is in Batgirl before obviously that gets shelved, and I think he was going to do The Brave and the Bold. They were going to do a Batman movie where he was like an older Batman to a younger, sort of a mentor to a younger Batman coming in. Affleck signed on to come back, and Ray Fisher met with Muschietti to reprise his role as Cyborg.
Booyah!
Billy Crudup left the project due to various changes of directors, but is meeting to come back again. But then during production, it was revealed that Cyborg would be removed from the movie following Ray Fisher's Twitter rant against Joss Whedon and Walter Hamada. So,
oh god.
The Hollywood Reporter writes, before things had gone sour, Fisher was expected to play a supporting role as Cyborg in the planned movie The Flash. In June 2020, Fisher said he had a call with director Andrew Muschietti, and that seemed positive, but the discussion hit a snag when Warner's framed a 2-week shoot as a cameo, offering only a fraction of what Fisher says would have been paid for reappearing as Cyborg. Warner's disputes this. By late September, he was upset by press reports that he was demanding they double his pay. Ultimately, the studio removed Cyborg from the movie. Citing a December 30 tweet, the studio said, given his statement that Mr. Fisher will not participate in any film associated with Mr. Hamada, our production is now moving on. Fisher says he wasn't surprised, quote, when I first spoke up, I assumed there would be no way these guys would allow me to do my job in peace.
Do you think the original version of the script had Barry finding Cyborg rather than younger Barry.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I wonder if. Although, but they still have to have like the reverse Flash bit at the end. But maybe it's
You can still do that.
He's fighting an older version of himself.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that would be a better.
Yeah.
I'd always thought that was what it was going to be when I was watching the movie the first time. Oh, it's an old version of old Barry.
Yeah. Because he does need to have like some form of companion within this that isn't, Michael Keaton. They need someone who's trying.
Yeah.
Umberto Gonzalez wrote for The Wrap. The Cyborg wasn't really going to be in the movie much. According to two insiders with knowledge of the situation, Warner Brothers actually hadn't heard back from Fisher's team since offering the small role back in June, and plans for a standalone Cyborg movie have stalled. Development of that project, which at one time was slated to hit theaters in 2020, was paused towards the end of 2016, according to one insider. So, according to at least the once known as the Latino Review, he actually didn't get back to them, saying he was going to do the movie. The Flash was moved from June 2022 and pushed back to November 2022 due to COVID delays. Sasha Calle joined in February 2021 as Supergirl and signed a multi-year deal with Warner Brothers to play the role.
Had she never done anything before as well?
She apparently there was 450 auditionees for the role of Supergirl, and she was the one that won out in the end.
Huh.
And she's barely in the film.
Yeah.
She has to get about she has as much screen time as Iris West. Billy Crudup has had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts because he's doing the morning show for Apples. And Clemens re-signed to play Iris after being cut from Justice League and reinstated by Snyder.
Oh, so she was never even in the theatrical Justice League?
No, remember, we watched it. She's
I've just merged, everything's blurred in my head.
Because we said that's one of the easiest scenes to cut from the movie.
Yeah.
We cut this 4 hours down to 2. Cut the Iris West stuff out.
I mean, sure, keep her cast, I guess.
Our final, lastly, the film is then moved from June 2023 or moved to June 2023 to give it more time to finish up the visual effects. Time well spent, I'd argue.
What did they look like before?
The final writing credits. Hudson received screenplay credits, Daley Goldstein and Harold received storyboard credits, and off-screen credits goes to additional writing material, goes to Rebecca Drysdale, Famuyiwa, Graham Smith, Johns, Lord, Christopher Miller, Ezra Miller, Grant Morrison, and Adam Sitskill. Deadline wrote in 2022 an article about screenwriter credits, and here's a quote. A high-profile comic book movie set to debut in 2023 recently had its final script submitted to the WGA for screenwriting credit, and insiders tell Deadline that a staggering 45 writers had some involvement with the script at various stages through the development process.
But
that's the Flash.
But you can only have 7. Is that the rule?
So it's 6. It's 2 pairs, or 6 names or 6 pairs.
Uh-huh.
I think is the most you can have on a project, and that's 6 writers or written by and 6 story by.
Yeah. So the max you could have had, to say that it's 6 writing teams, is 12. And then you've got 6 separate story by. So let's just say that's also 12 in the most generous version of this. That's 24. There's still 16 uncredited writers of this movie.
Which is, again, fairly common practice within the Hollywood system.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of scripts get uncredited rewrites while on set. That's how Abrams got his start within the industry, was he was doing uncredited rewrites on things. He did uncredited rewrites on Con Air. The director of that movie once told me that he got... Abrams got paid as much as he as the director got paid for doing a rewrite on Con Air, and only one of his lines made it into the final movie.
Wow.
So
it's good to have unions sometimes.
Now we have to talk about Ezra Miller.
Okay.
So
that was a sort of we need to talk about Kevin thing. Did you do that intentionally?
It wasn't intentionally, but funny enough, we need to talk about Kevin will come up in this bit I'm going to talk about here. So I started to write up about Ezra Miller.
I don't really know the situation, by the way.
So neither did I.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, I actually have not read up that much about Ezra Miller and his personal life. I know that there is lots of controversies around them as a person, but I actually didn't know much about it. So I went on to, controversies around Ezra Miller. Started writing on one of them. And then I scrolled down and there was just more of them that kept coming up. And I was like, oh man, there's actually way more here than I thought. So apologies. I'm effectively going to read a Vanity Fair article write-up of this because it's a much better detailed. It's got a lot of quotes from people. It's better than any of the research I could provide to you here. So I'm going to read a lot of this from a Vanity Fair article. Sure. Ezra Miller did not, to put it mildly, invoke their right to remain silent.
When was this? This is like 2022?
2022 that this was.
So before the Flash movie is released.
Yes.
Which, I mean, maybe that's an actual reason why they pushed the release date back.
Could be.
So it's further away from
we
this.
will come on to how a lot of this does affect the Flash momentarily. This past March, the actor was arrested in a tiki bar called Margarita Village in Hawaii after shouting profanities, spitting in a patron's face, and grabbing a microphone from a woman singing karaoke. Miller claimed to have been accosted by a Nazi and to have evidence. In fact, one of the first things you hear the actor say in a 3-minute police body cam video that circulated after the arrest is something the officers likely have never heard from a disorderly dive bar patron before. Quote, "I film myself when I get assaulted for NFT crypto art."
What? I film
myself when I get assaulted for NFT crypto art.
Sorry. I'm sure this is going to go to some dark, uncomfortable places. But that is...
There are some, I have to just add in here, some levity. I'm trying not to do a David S. Goyer's Flash script.
What to say that? When was that arrest? Is that like 2021?
Yeah, 2021 might have been. 2022, actually, I think this was an arrest.
God, NFTs were all the rage back then, weren't they?
Remember there were so many chat shows where people looking like they were at gunpoint, just going on being like, aren't NFTs amazing?
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon was like, look at these crap ape drawings.
Look at this NFT I've got. And then I guess we'll be being like, oh, you've got that one? Here's the NFT I've got. And I'm like, who is paying this? What big corporation is paying these actors to go on there and talk about how important this is?
I think, sadly, the truth is probably no grand conspiracy. I always think of the Big Damo quote. I don't know what to tell you. Some celebrities are in dumb.
Once outside, Miller, sweaty and disheveled in a black suit jacket, burgundy pants, and a red tie, barks at the cops to state their full names and badge numbers. When one attempts to search Miller's pockets, the actor says twice, rapid fire, "I'm transgender, non-binary, I don't want to be searched by a man." After being called sir, the actor responds, "This is an act of intentional bigotry and a technical hate crime." Miller, whose pronouns are they, them, registers their objection to being, quote, "unlawfully persecuted for a crime of no designation," end quote, says they have a pre-existing nerve damage from police handcuffs, and expands on the Nazis' assault. Quote, "You should have," this is what the cop then says, you should have told us that instead of running away. We could have taken care of everything real quick, but you wanted to play the game." When the police empty Miller's pockets, they find styrofoam Nerf bullets and place them in a plastic bag along with a single accessory linking the person in cuffs to the movie that their acclaimed career as well as $200 million of Warner Brothers money is riding on. A ring emblazoned with the DC Comics superhero character, The Flash.
Well, that's pretty cool.
By now, Miller seems to have burned off the rage. "That Flash ring means a lot to me," the actor says quietly. "It's very valuable." The arrest was just one of a downward spiral so confusing and troubling that even old friends have difficulty passing the chaos. What's clear is that Miller has been endangering not just their career but also their safety and allegedly that of others in increasingly plain sight for the last 2 years. Since 2020, the actor has been accused of crimes and abuses spanning 6,000 miles and 2 oceans, throwing a chair that hit a woman in the forehead, threatening a couple in their bedroom, and stealing a wallet and a passport in Hawaii, on top of the incident at Margarita Village, choking 2 strangers in Iceland, and breaking into a neighbor's home in Vermont to steal alcohol, which resulted in a felony charge. In June, 2 protection orders were issued against Miller. The first was filed in tribal court in North Dakota by Chase Iron Eyes, a Native American businessman, and his wife, Sarah Jumping Eagle, on behalf of their 18-year-old Takada Iron Eyes, who goes by Gibson. They accused Miller of grooming, brainwashing, and emotionally abusing the teenager, a non-binary indigenous activist Miller met when Iron Eyes was just 12. The tribal court put a temporary order in place, but ultimately dismissed the request for a permanent one, and the parents say they withdrew their request for custody, believing the odds were stacked against them. The second order was requested by a mother in Massachusetts, claiming that Miller's interest in their own non-binary 12-year-old made her and the child feel uncomfortable in incidents between February and June of that year. The actor denies the allegations. Okay, more recently, Vermont State Police were dispatched to Miller's farm with an emergency order from the Department for Child and Families. A 25-year-old woman named Anna had moved her 3 young children into the household. Though the woman has said that Ezra saved her family from an abusive situation, Miller's farm was said to be gun-ridden and unsafe for children. Quote, "I saw more guns than ever and 3 little kids running around among them," a longtime friend who visited in May tells Vanity Fair. The youngest girl picked up a bullet and put it in her mouth. The order issued on August 5th demanded that custody of Anna's kids immediately be transferred to the state, but when police arrived on the film star's farm, Anna and the children were gone. The children's father tells Vanity Fair that he's not spoken to his kids since April. A court date concerning custody is set for October in Hawaii. Warner Brothers has not commented on its marquee superhero and declined to speak for the story, but a source close to the situation says the studio and the actors agency, CAA, suggested Miller work with someone in crisis PR. On August 15th, Miller finally admitted that they were in the midst of an intense crisis and said in a statement, "Having recently gone through a time of intense crisis, I now understand that I am suffering complex mental health issues and have begun ongoing treatment. I want to apologize to everyone that I have alarmed and upset with my past behavior. I am committed to doing the necessary work to get back to a healthy, safe, and productive stage of my life."
I mean, it certainly does seem like a sort of mental breakdown, essentially, which wasn't sadly uncommon in the pandemic times, of which this is shortly after. But then there's people's accusations that he had been, but by their words, grooming 12-year-olds 8 years beforehand.
Yes.
So that to me, by their accusations, would say this is not a thing that's happening in isolation. It's a long-running thing.
So friends that Vanity Fair spoke to said that they believe that Miller's parents went through a divorce, I think like shortly before the pandemic, and that sort of sent them into a bit of a spiral. Also, the pandemic didn't help. And the other thing as well is that apparently Miller never has anything planned in between shoots, like when they're between projects. So they often just spiral into something mad. Like going to Iceland apparently was just a spur of the moment thing, and that's what led to the choking incident in Reykjavik. Like they hadn't planned to go to Iceland; they just said, "I'm just going to go." And
they hadn't planned to choke someone.
They hadn't planned to do that. They also write here, so you might be asking, "This isn't related to The Flash. Why are you talking about this?" Well, Vanity Fair spoke to friends. They say the actor verbally and emotionally abused those around them and referred to themselves alternatively as Jesus and the devil. 3 people say Miller also wrapped the superhero they play into their grandiose speechifying. The actor, says one source, was, quote, claiming that the Flash is the one who brings the multiverse together, just like Jesus.
Well, in that reading, I can't find a fault. Where's the lie there?
The first time Miller was accused of choking a stranger in Reykjavik, the incident was dismissed as a drunken altercation, but the second instance was filmed and went viral in April 2020. Variety reported the trouble began when a woman behind the bar joked about fighting Miller. The actor reacted so aggressively, putting their hands around the woman's neck and pushing her to the ground, and the bartender said he locked Miller out. Later, a friend says Miller was then calling Warner Brothers, claiming to be the victim in all of this.
He allegedly beat up a woman, is what that boils down to.
Yes.
Sorry, they allegedly.
Well, Miller's representatives say that the actor was baited by a, quote, group of teens about their mixed martial arts skills. The rep claims the choking was not choking, but a spontaneous reaction during which the actor went at her collarbone. So yeah, it's not alleged. They do admit that they did attack them.
Bit of the old neck cuddling.
Yeah.
I like that bit about a gang of teenagers were mocking
Ezra Miller, talking about their mixed martial arts skills. Exactly. I've got to try and add a little bit of levity in there.
Hey, we're sick at karate. Take us on, Flash. You think you're fast? I've got a yellow belt.
While in Iceland, Miller was accompanied by Jasper Young Bear, a 55-year-old North Dakota medicine man the actor had hired as a spiritual advisor. Young Bear seems to have stoked Miller's outsized vision of himself. Quote, Jasper was telling Ezra that he wasn't part of a movement, he was the movement, that he was the next Messiah, and that the Freemasons were sending demons out to kill him. Says a source who, like others who have been close to Miller, sometimes misgenders the actor, who is said not to insist on they-them pronouns in private. That's why I mentioned that earlier. According to The Insider, the actor has grown increasingly narcissistic, often choosing young people for their audience because they're more malleable. Quote, he'd talk about the metaverse and the medicine and how they're the messiah and that his work is here. They say their spiritual practice is to be among people, which means partying. So when in Iceland, he was out non-stop. His favourites were raves and he'd go on benders for 2 or 3 days at a time. He actually christened his farm in Vermont The Mountain. And if you were allowed to stay there for free, but you had to listen to his sermons while you were there.
I'd say it's cult leader-like behaviour.
Well, he named them. He named their group. Let me get this right.
Oh, so it's not cult leader-like. It's flat-out cult leader behaviour.
Yeah, he told Playboy in an interview that they were part of what he called a polycule, which is a portmanteau of a polyamorous relationship and a molecule.
Sure. Things sound really fun when you're on acid, don't they?
A friend of the actor says, quote, an openly polyamorous lifestyle, that's not inherently wrong to me. But Miller's situation, in their opinion, quote, is actually a patriarchal dictatorship where Ezra controls all the sex as the man and plays the women against each other, screams at them, belittles them in front of each other.
I think it's sometimes people can use the language of acceptance and open-mindedness to actually impose their quite toxic attitudes on people.
Miller is said to have woven young Takada Ionize into their narrative, claiming that the pair were fated to be together. Quote, Ezra is Jesus and Takada is an apocalyptic Native American spider goddess, and their union is supposed to bring about the apocalypse, recaps one person. Quote, and the real reason everyone is opposed to them being together. That's the real reason everyone's opposed to them being together.
They've built such a lore.
I was saying this to Sullivan in the office, and he said, if they believe that their union is going to bring about an apocalypse, I can see why people don't want them to be together. But why are they arguing that they should be together?
Even if there's a 0.1% chance. It's safer to not, right?
Ionize's mother, Jumping Eagle, has heard Miller's story too. Quote, they say they are some kind of messiah and they're going to lead an indigenous revolution. The actor themselves does not have Native American ancestry and, despite being fixated on native cultures, does not strike anyone as respectful. Quote, he professes that he walks through the world with his indigenous humanity and spiritual awakeness, says one indigenous insider. But, point of fact, he doesn't at all because he doesn't care.
Indigenous humanity.
The house in Vermont contains an altar that's home to bullets, weed, sage, and flash figurines.
This is a Netflix true crime documentary. This just keeps getting crazier.
Quote, a lot of times he makes the women put their cell phones on the altar when they come in and offer an other offering, says one longtime friend. Quote, Ezra freaked out recently, demanding that Susan Sarandon come round to pay tribute at his altar because she didn't invite Ezra to a dinner party.
Susan Sarandon is just the best. Why is she getting her name dragged in this?
So
she's in a DC movie.
Yeah.
We're not going to get to Blue Beetle, but she's the chief antagonist, weirdly.
There appears to be a lot of Miller, based on what I've read in this Vanity Fair article, him believing, there's a lot of these things like no one knows the Flash character better than Ezra Miller. He seems to really embody this character. Like, he wears the Flash ring all of the time. One of the things they talk about the weapons in his house, the one he uses a lot is a bow and arrow, which is the weapon he uses in We Need to Talk About Kevin.
Right.
And in fact, he has told in an interview, it's the same weapon that he used while on set. Like, it's the prop from that while on set. In early August, Warner Brothers Discovery... I'm going to skip one.
It's like method actors talk about the problem of inhabiting a role so deeply that they have to have quite a long winding down process afterwards to rediscover yourself and take the bits of the character away from you, because that's not real. Yeah. That was a role you were playing. It seems to me that in those spaces between characters that Ezra hasn't removed those parts of himself.
Yeah, they are still just embodying those characters. And like that's why like there's a lot of this talk about the multiverse, the metaverse, and that the Flash is a messiah, I'm a messiah, and all this sort of stuff.
I don't want to armchair psychologize too much, but I will. I think that probably makes your identity quite fractured and fluid. So if a medicine man comes over to you and says, I also think you're the messiah, maybe you would at that point go, I'm not condoning anything, I'm just trying to understand. You might go, oh yeah, like Maybe I am, because
Maybe I am.
I'm taking all these other parts
I
of
changed
people's...
time. I've changed the fabric of time and reality.
Do you remember when I saved? When I had to kill my own mum?
In early August, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav told investors that he was bullish on The Flash and the movie will go forward with its 2023 theatrical release. The Hollywood Reporter, however, reported that Warner Brothers had discussed scrapping the film in
Good
time.
God, that is next level. Like, I know that there's a very serious argument to do it, but the fact that it's being discussed by when so much money is at stake.
So this is the Hollywood Reporter's report from August 2022. The Hollywood Reporter say they've currently got 3 possible scenarios. 1. Warner's has received indications that the 29-year-old Miller, whose mother has accompanied the actor in recent days, will seek professional help after returning to their farm in Vermont after being away. If that happens, Miller, who goes by they them pronouns, could give an interview at some point explaining their erratic behavior over the past years. The actor could then do limited press for The Flash and the movie can open as planned. Second scenario. Even if Miller doesn't reach out for help, Warner's could still release the film, but don't expect Miller to play any prominent role in terms of marketing and publicity. Nor would Miller be the Flash going forward, as the role would be recast in future projects. And the third, the situation is that Miller deteriorates further. This would see Warner Brothers killing the movie outright, as it cannot be reshot with a different actor. Miller plays multiple characters in almost every scene. Scrapping a $200 million movie would be an unprecedented move. All of this comes amidst changes at Warner Brothers. Earlier this month, newly minted Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav stunned Hollywood by shelving Batgirl, a $90 million movie made for HBO Max. Unlike The Flash, there was no individual controversy involved. Rather, Zaslav opted to take a tax write-down on the project and pivot away from making streaming films for DC. Despite the arrest and headlines about Miller's alleged behavior, Zaslav said last week the studio is committed to theatrical release for a number of DC films, which include The Flash. Quote, "We've seen them, we think they're terrific, we think we can make them even better."
I think we all know this already or have our suspicions. Zaslav is a hatchet man.
Oh yeah,
he's come in, he's butchered Warner Bros, he's chopping it up, he's trying to make something else. I don't think he's a good businessman. I think he's a terrible CEO. Mm-hmm. But the Flash thing, let's say it's a $200 million budget movie. At this point, they've not pumped, let's say, 40 million more into special effects, and usually the marketing costs double. Mm-hmm. So it's actually more expensive at this point to release the movie.
I agree. I wonder if... So we'll get into this a little bit later on when they start doing all of the interviews about it's the greatest comic book movie I've ever made. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen. I wonder if there's a part of them that truly does believe...
That thinks it's good, yeah.
That thinks it's good. Like Zaslav has seen it. It's like, this is the greatest comic book. It's got Michael Keaton back as Batman.
Yeah.
This is going to make $1 billion. So we have to release this movie. I wonder if that's his bullish attitude towards us. Not because we've spent $200 million. It's like, no, this is going to make $1 billion.
Well, if they were all surprised when Batman v Superman came out and everyone was like, this is crap, I can see how you would work yourself into a shoot. I also don't think Zaslav's got good taste.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. The final thing from this Vanity Fair article is the notion that the Flash was at risk was a wake-up call, says the actor's representative. Miller and the CEA agent have even made a trip to the studio's Burbank, California headquarters to apologize for the negative PR in person and expressed renewed commitment. The actor is now said to be working with producers on The Flash to shoot additional scenes.
Coward. Brando would have not done that. He would have continued to be weird.
Yeah. I'm going to go through this bit fairly quickly, but I need to give this as a little bit of context for why. Is it the next thing?
There's more.
Yes, but there are still some other little bits for us to cover in terms of the production of this movie.
Not for Ezra.
Oh, no, not for Ezra Miller, no. So following the shelving of Batgirl, David Zaslav was quoted as saying, "We've done a reset." He said, "We're going to focus on quality. We're not going to release any film before it's ready. DC is something we can make better." The Hollywood Reporter then writes, "The remarks were not well received inside DC, according to multiple insiders who used the same word to describe members of the film's division, pissed. DC President Walter Hamada nearly exited after learning of the shelving of Batgirl before being convinced to stay on until at least October 21st's release of Black Adam. The film had a June test screening. That film had a June test screening, including a new post-credit scene introducing a new element to Johnson's pace in the DC universe.
Oh, how will that shake out? Tune in next month to Worst Movie Ever.
Before Warner sold to Discovery, Hamada was gearing up to release 3 to 4 films a year. The executives were brought in on 2018 to chart a new course for DC after a roadmap spearheaded by Zack Snyder imploded in the wake of the disastrous release of Justice League in 2017. Hamada's plans were said to have included a Crisis on Infinite Earths event, a take on the seminal DC comic storyline that has been adapted for TV on the CW. Rumors circulated about introducing the Secret Six, a villain team that in the comics have been the Suicide Squad antagonists. More concretely, Warner's films based on Supergirl, Green Lantern Corps, and Static Shock expected in the next few years, plus a J.J. Abrams-produced Black Superman movie, but development has slowed on those, with none of them having attached directors.
They are chucking ideas out there. An ex-Static movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, Static Shock.
Static Shock, yeah.
I was thinking my early noughties metal bands. Yeah, Static Shock.
In March 2023, Barbara Machete, who's one of the producers and the wife of, I think she's her sister, I believe, actually, said that there was never actually a conversation about scrapping the movie. I bet. I bet there were never any of those conversations. So now it's time for your friend of mine, the changed ending.
Yeah, I don't know about this. I'm curious.
So The Hollywood Reporter reported in June 2023 the well-kept secret that George Clooney was coming back as Batman for a cameo. Spoilers for the end of the movie. Quote, Clooney's return to Bruce Wayne was not years in the making. In fact, it was made within a few weeks with some phone calls, 2 screenings of the movie, and half-day shoot in January. Bearing in mind this film came out in June.
So I thought you were going to say the bit about the 3 Flashes having a battle was the change bit. So just in case you've not seen the movie, Barry goes back to the original timeline. Everything seems reset back to its original place. His dad gets off for murder. Yeah, hey, everything's working great. He steps outside the courthouse.
Gets a phone call from Bruce.
And Bruce pulls up. Bruce gets out of the car, but it's not Ben Affleck. It's George Clooney.
Yeah.
It's an inspired cameo. And it really, when I first watched it, I did not know, caught me by surprise. I thought it was a masterstroke.
It was also the 3rd ending crafted for the movie, which director Andy Muschietti made through 3 separate regimes at Warner Brothers.
Oh, bloody hell.
The Flash serves as a study of a movie that survived and evolved in a rapidly changing media landscape, facing the direct diktats of several sets of studio heads and a multi-billion-dollar acquisition. So, The Flash was originally conceived and shot ending at the courthouse steps with Supergirl, played by Sasha Calle, and Batman, played by Michael Keaton, who'd already featured in the movie, alive and well.
Oh, even in this...
So the original ending, even though they died in that timeline, when he goes back and resets the timeline, they are actually alive in his version of things. However, the movie got caught in a lightning storm that was Discovery's acquisition of Warner Brothers in 2022. Emmerich and Hamada were ousted, and Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav was on the hunt for an executive to run DC. In the meantime, Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdi were installed as Warner Brothers Pictures Group's chairpersons and CEOs. They were tasked with overseeing DC temporarily, and suddenly, and certainly not unexpectedly, had their own plans. A new Flash ending was conceived. This vision was still on the courthouse steps, but now Callie Supergirl was joined by Superman, played by Henry Cavill, and Wonder Woman, played by Gal Gadot. Keaton was also there. DeLuca and Abdi believed they were being strategic with the ending. Cavill was going to cameo for DC's Black Adam and being teed up as a return for a new Superman movie. Supergirl was retained because Supergirl was retained because even though executives were killing the development of a standalone Supergirl movie, they were open to her returning in some form and didn't want the last image the audience saw with her dying. Meanwhile, the studio was developing a 3rd installment of the Wonder Woman series with filmmaker Patty Jenkins and star Gal Gadot. This was a nice way to keep Wonder Woman in the cultural conversation. The ending was shot in September, involving Miller, Cavill, and Gadot, as well as Keaton and Callie. Then came another lightning strike. In November, Zaslav announced that filmmaker James Gunn and producer Peter Safran were going to run DC Studios, overseeing all DC films and television efforts, and suddenly, and certainly not unexpectedly, they had their own plans. Knowing they were resetting the DC universe with their own vision, Gunn and Safran saw that having Cavill and Godot in the new ending was potentially promising something their plans were not going to deliver. One of the first actions the duo took was to scrap the Cavill Superman film, and they parted ways with Jenkins, effectively killing the third Wonder Woman installment.
And Johnson.
The filmmakers, according to multiple people associated with the movie, then looked at alternatives but wanted to keep the germ of the idea. Barry thinks everything is all right and the rug's pulled out at the last moment. They went back to the idea jokes about earlier in the filmmaking process. How many Batmen can we get? Clooney was brought up as a long shot, but Gunn and Safran jumped at the notion. The duo reached out to Clooney's agent at CAA, Brian Lord, showing him a cut of the mostly finished film. He liked it, and he showed it to Clooney. Clooney liked it and agreed to be part of it. A shoot was quickly assembled, and on January morning on the Warner's lot, Clooney was there as Wayne for the first time in 26 years. Also on set was Miller, making their first appearance on the lot since the fateful day in August when they met with Warner Brothers film chairs DeLuca and Abdi to discuss their controversial behavior and multiple arrests. Quote, "It's rare that you have a movie in post-production that faces three separate regimes with three separate agendas. None of them were scrapped because of ill will, just different visions."
I didn't realise that the Flash movie would have been... This is by far the most tortured production history.
This is why I thought we were going to do this over Suicide Squad.
And
We've been going now for nearly 2 hours, and I'm still not done.
like the Justice League reshoots, the Snyder Cut version.
Because at least with those, it's one studio
It's
head.
just one thing going wrong.
But they've got like Discovery buying them, Walter Hamada coming in, Walter Hamada leaving.
A pandemic?
DeLuca and Abney coming in, taking over. Then Gunn and Safran coming in and taking over. And all of them coming like, no, we need to go in this direction with The Flash.
DeLuca and Abney, by the way, they're widely considered the people who've actually turned Warner Bros. Films around in 2025.
They've actually they got signed to new contracts very recently, very lucrative new contracts. And the rumor is, and sort of the thing behind it, because Warner Brothers knows that they're selling, they wanted to make sure that they would stay on.
Right.
Because if they came on and their contracts might be coming to an end shortly, they could just cut those. Whoever buys them could just cut a lot of dead weight. But this way it effectively keeps them job security because, as you say, they have turned the studio around.
I'm not surprised to hear that the one bit of key jangling I did think was excellent, which is the George Clooney bit, is James Gunn. But what a nice way, like if that is your aim, where you're like, we need to cut this universe off dead, so let's just end this movie on a joke. What a great punchline.
That's
like
it.
The punchline to the joke of The Flash is actually so good. It doesn't make The Flash worth it as an exercise, but yeah. It is good.
You'll never believe this. The original cut of the movie was 4 hours long. So in regards to the cameos at the end of the movie, when you have the real key jangling of just like, look at this person, look at this person.
In the multiverse thing.
There were some cameos cut out of that, including Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, Marlon Brando's Jor-El from Superman.
Oh, that would have been a nice touch.
Burgess Meredith's Penguin and Cesar Romero's Joker from the Batman TV series.
You can hear Cesar
Romero? It's Cesar Romero and Jack Nicholson's. Their Joker last being played at the same time. They keep saying, it's like, there just wasn't enough time to put them in. And I'm like, it's like each person's on screen for like 3 seconds.
Apart from Nicolas Cage, who is on screen for like 25 seconds.
He gets more screen time than Iris West.
It's weird how much time is devoted to the Nick Cage Superman when that should just be a 3-second spot.
We'll come on to Cage very shortly. Grant Gustin, they also said that Grant Gustin's Flash was also supposed to be in that.
Oh, from the Arrowverse. That makes total sense.
But Grant Gustin said in December 2023, well, no one ever called me.
Why would you not include that Flash? But you do include, again, 25 seconds worth of unproduced Nicolas Cage film from the 90s.
Because it's key jangling. And I think that's a bigger key
That's
jangle.
not a bigger key. People love the Arrowverse. People love Grant Gustin's Flash.
But I think if you do that one, it's more like, can you believe? And actually, I think there is actually a bigger thing on this, which we'll come on to when we come on to the marketing of this movie. Because they actually announced ahead of time that Nicolas Cage is in it.
Right.
And that's why it's a bigger deal than doing Grant Gustin. Okay. All of them were done with EI and deepfake technology, which some people were very unhappy about, including Tim Burton, who of course directed Keaton's Batman, but also was going to direct Superman Lives with Nicolas Cage as Superman. He said, "I'm in quiet revolt about all of this," he told the BFI, and he called the film misappropriation of Keaton's Batman. Nicolas Cage told Dream Scenario, "First and foremost, I was on set. They did put a lot of time into building the set. I think that Andy is a terrific director. He's a great guy, great director, and I loved his 2 It movies. What I was supposed to do was literally just be standing in an alternate dimension, if you will, witnessing the destruction of the universe." So you can hear Nicolas Cage talking about this. Kal-El is bearing witness to the end of the universe, and you can imagine it with the short amount of time I had, what it would mean in terms of what I can convey. I had no dialogue, so had to convey with my eyes the emotion. So that's what I did. I was maybe on set for 3 hours. When I went to the picture, it was me fighting a giant spider. I did not do that. That is not what I did. I don't think it was created by an AI companion. I know that Tim is upset about AI, as am I. It was CG. Okay, so I could see they de-aged me and I'm fighting a spider. I didn't do that, so I don't know what happened there. But I get where Tim is coming from. I know what he means. I would be very unhappy if people were taking my art and appropriating them. I get it. I mean, I'm with him in that regard. AI is a nightmare to me. It's inhumane. You can't get more inhumane than artificial intelligence. But I don't think it was AI in The Flash. I just think they did something with it. And again, it's out of my control.
I don't know if AI was at a point in 2022, 2023 where it could realistically do that for a big budget movie.
Yeah, deep faking. So the Superman, the Christopher Reeve Superman, I think is deep fake. And so there's the Helen Slater one. But I don't think like AI in terms of just create me a scene with Nicolas Cage fighting a giant spider.
Yes, yeah. There's nuance there in the differences. But yeah, what Nick Cage described first is what it should have been. It's just a shot of Nick Cage looking at the destruction of the multiverse. Why extend that out into a spider battle scene, which, is a joke on the producer of that Superman Lives movie who just wanted people to fight giant spiders?
Yeah, and it's because you can share that clip on Twitter and I think it's done to try and get people to go and like hear word of mouth and go and see it.
But again, that it pops us because we were
big
Kevin Smith fans of the 90s and early noughties. But the audience that you want going to is I think a more effective mobilization is the Arrowverse audience.
Probably, yeah.
Where they can share that clip around.
So in June of 2023, the question on everyone's minds, according to the Hollywood Reporter, the question on everyone's mind since that day in August, could Miller stay out of trouble and out of the headlines long enough for The Flash to safely enter theaters? 10 months later, the answer appears to be yes. Miller has not only stayed out of the headlines, but the actor is nowhere to be found in the press as the film sprints towards its June 16th release. Instead of touting its star, the studio has put more focus into the film itself, hyping it to perhaps unrealistic levels. David Zaslav and studio head James Gunn have publicly said the feature is among the greatest superhero movies of all time. This has sparked bemusement, head shaking, and some at Warner's and who question the wisdom of setting such high expectation. Quote, "It can't be the studio telling you it's good, it's your friends that have got to tell you it's good." The first reviews which have dropped are solid, but not the type of notices received by The Dark Knight, considered one of the greatest films of the genre. The Flash currently holds 72% on Rotten Tomatoes, good enough to beat Joker's 1 billion hit, which had 69%.
Nice.
Instead of touting its star, the studio has enlisted famous champions, courting celebrities for advanced screenings. Stephen King has seen it. Quote, "As a rule, I don't care a lot for superhero movies, but this one is special. It's heartfelt, funny, and eye-popping," he put out on Twitter. So has Jaden Smith. Quote, "Best movie ever," he wrote on Instagram. Tom Cruise was also treated to an advanced screening at his home. He did not tweet his review, but is said to have liked it. In fact, the studio mounted what one person described as one of the most robust screening campaigns in recent memory to build buzz, with tens of thousands seeing it. So this is what I was talking about.
Tens of thousands who didn't pay for tickets.
That actually is something that someone brings up later. They paid upwards of $14 million for one NBA game to screen like trailers for The Flash. Because I truly believe, I think Zaslav does believe we're going to make $1 billion with this movie.
Well, I think if you just look at Michael Keaton, Batman, Spider-Man...
No Way Home.
No Way Home.
It's 2021.
2021. And that, a lot of the appeal of that movie is, oh my God, you're going to see Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland all playing Spider-Man in the same film.
There's almost a track record. There's actually almost a precedent for it that this film will do really well.
And that movie works. Like I love that film. I think it's a really great experience. But that isn't what The Flash accomplishes.
Someone's quoted here as saying, a rival studio executive is quoted saying, they're not promoting Flash as a character because they can't. Really sort of referencing you can't put Miller too much front and center. So you're now just focusing on Stephen King likes it, Jaden Smith likes it, Tom Cruise likes it.
And it's a smart strategy though, isn't it?
Well,
like if you've got to you've got to market the film somehow.
Dude, it was working because it was looking to have a $100 million opening weekend. And the Hollywood Reporter then reported, The Flash, one of the most anticipated films of the 2023 summer calendar, was a major box office miss. The tentpole starring Ezra Miller opened to a dismal $55 million over the June 16th to 18th weekend, putting it on par with past DC bombs Watchmen and not far ahead of DC stumble Green Lantern, not adjusted for inflation.
So adjusted for inflation, probably the same.
Yeah. Was it going to be an Avengers level hit? Probably not. But it would have. But that would have been an unfair expectation. But it had a clear pathway to at least being like what Days of Future Past was for X-Men 9 years ago. After that franchise seemingly lost its way with confusing timelines and dwindling popularity, says box office analyst Sean Robbins at Box Office Pro. The increasingly disjointed slate of DC storylines is as equally to blame as other outside factors, leaving the franchise at a point where a lack of consistency prevented the kind of emotional connection with most of its characters that a sprawling universe needed. The story looked to be much different in February when the first trailer debuted to fanfare. Quote, The Flash looked like it had so much potential following its Super Bowl trailer. Hopes were high. Instead, it was more DC Comics mediocrity, says Wall Street analyst Eric Handler. Zaslav could have easily swept it under the rug since he inherited it. Considering Zaslav and Gunn's confidence, many were surprised when The Flash officially came on tracking 3 weeks ahead of its debut to an underwhelming forecast of $70 million. They assumed tracking services and Warner Brothers were being conservative. If only that were true. Often, a Hollywood event pick that finds itself in trouble domestically can make up grounds overseas. In this case, there's no such assurances. The Flash, which opened day and date in almost every major market, bowed to a muted $75 million internationally. Note an insider close to the film, when a movie doesn't work, it just doesn't work. But hey, it's all right. You've always got the second weekend.
Oh.
Well, The Rep reported, the bad news for Warner Brothers, The Flash just got worse. After the tentpole blockbuster bombed last weekend with a much lower than hoped $55 million opening, industry estimates have now dropped it to more than 70% this past weekend to $14 million.
Oh, that is a drop-off.
It's the third biggest drop-off for a superhero movie behind Steel and your friend of mine, Morbius. So then someone was talking about, like, the Washington Post had a really great article about why they think the film failed. And a lot of it is about, like, it's stemmed from the Justice League and what Whedon did with the movie. And unfortunately...
It's a bad brand. It's a dead brand.
But it was like The Flash was considered when Snyder was there. He's the linchpin of my plans. He's going to be one of my big central main characters.
He's the guy that goes back in time to warn Batman about the nightmare sequence.
And they also say as well, like, this is where they write, it's now clear that The Flash's debut neared. DC wasn't satisfied with the pre-release buzz. Almost a month before The Flash hit theaters, director Andrew Muschietti confirmed that Nicolas Cage's version of Superman, which almost made it to theaters in the 90s, makes an appearance in the film. That's the type of surprise that shouldn't be ruined a month before a film's release date. The announcement came off as a gimmick to drive up hype. Perhaps the early box office tracking was beginning to come in, and Warner Brothers and DC Studios realized they were falling short of a $100 million opening weekend. And the apparent scramble was an odd play that deflated the moment of Cage's long-haired Superman appearing in The Flash. Most people who walked into the theater already knew it was coming. Meanwhile, numerous free fan screenings meant to ignite the fan base meant a lot of fans who wanted to see the movie already did. And they saw it for free. The fan that sees a superhero movie 4 to 5 times in a theater is a dying breed. Not because they don't want to, but because these movies hit streaming platforms so quickly.
Yeah.
So in order to get a sequel, it was reported it needs to do around $770 million, which is the same as what The Batman did. It did $271 million globally.
Good grief. So The Batman had come out by this point. God, doesn't that really date this look of The Flash? Like, this is...
It's still DCEU Flash, and you've got, like, Gal Gadot showing up as Wonder Woman. I was like, this feels like a relic of the past. There was also a really fascinating stat about the people who went to go see the movie. Apparently, 80% of the audience was male. And that's so high that apparently, like, analysts had to do a double take when they saw the stat. They were like, this can't be right. 80% of the audience was male. Muschietti told Radio 2, The Flash failed among all other reasons because it wasn't a movie that appealed to all four quadrants. If you don't know what four quadrants are, men over 25, men under 25, women over 25, women under 25. It failed at that. When you spend $200 million making a movie, Warner Brothers wants you to even bring your grandmother to the theaters. I found in private conversations that a lot of people just don't care about the Flash as a character, particularly the two female quadrants. All of that is just going to wind up against the film. That's what I've learned.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of characters out there that audiences weren't familiar with, who had no setup, and then they got on board with because it was a good movie.
Like Aquaman.
Like Aquaman.
It did $1 billion. Why did Aquaman do $1 billion?
Guardians of the Galaxy is always the one we point back to.
They did have a script written for The Flash too. But obviously is not going to get made. They did confirm it was going to be Reverse Flash as the villain within there.
Right.
So that is pretty much it. The last thing is, like, Variety were reporting about Aquaman 2's trouble production. And they wrote, of The Flash, the movie is like an echo of the regimes, says one insider. It's the last remnants of the Snyderverse, and no one really wants to take ownership of it. Reshoots took place right up until this year's WGA strike in May. And then I then learned there's loads of on-set disputes with Aquaman 2 as well.
I didn't know that.
Jason Momoa, James Wan, and Amber Heard. I only found out about this recently, but they were trying to get Amber Heard fired on the movie. They didn't want to come back for the sequel because there was no chemistry between her and Momoa. And in the end, she did come back to do the sequel. But here's a really fun story. I'm going to end off on this. Amber Heard was nearly fired, sources tell both sides tell Variety. Following Aquaman's release in 2018, the studio and Wan decided to drop the actress from the sequel. I'm going to bring this up because we'll never get to talk about Aquaman 2.
It's not bad enough to make our worst movie ever. It's totally forgettable.
Following Aquaman's release in 2018, the studio and Wan decided to drop the actress from the sequel due to her lack of chemistry with Momoa and sent a letter to her attorney, Carl Austin, informing him of the decision. Those sources underscore that the movie to Bounce Heard was unrelated to Depp, and which took place when he filed the suit against the actress in 2019. Johnny Depp, of course. Likewise, Momoa was not involved in the decision-making, but another source pushed back on the lack of chemistry narrative, noting that Heard did a chemistry test with Momoa before landing the role of Mira and beat out two other actresses who did a similar chemistry test.
I thought their chemistry was fine.
Ultimately, the studio never pulled the trigger on firing Heard because her former boyfriend, Elon Musk, had one of his litigators send a scorched earth letter to Warner Brothers threatening to burn the house down if the actress wasn't brought back for the sequel, says a source familiar with the behind-the-scenes battle. Warner Brothers caved and moved forward with Amber Heard.
I mean, there's part of me that's like, it's fun when a bully, Warner Bros, gets bullied by another bully in Elon Musk.
Yeah.
But isn't that quite terrifying how one man can have so much power that Aquaman 2 can't recast?
No, I'm going to not just threaten Aquaman 2. I'm going to burn down the entirety of Warner Brothers if you do not cast my ex-girlfriend in your movie.
Hey, it must be on good terms, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, he must like her in some regard.
Well, this is the current standing.
It is indeed.
That's
the long production history of The Flash, by the way.
Yeah, you go over to patreon.com/cutscene now because we're going to be doing the full review of this long movie.
Somehow 2.5 hours.
It's long and speedy.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff happens. So right now we've updated it. Suicide Squad won the poll.
Yes. So
I voted for it at number 2.
I voted for it to go in at number 6.
Which would have been above Daredevil but below Justice League.
Yeah, we put it to our Patreons and it was like a 68% swing in your favor. So Suicide Squad is now officially on our list, the second worst movie ever made.
So we've got, this will be our 12th movie because it's a year.
Yeah.
Hey, happy birthday to us. And we've done DCEU and bad Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
What third are you? Just a gut feeling of The Flash.
When I started doing this watch through, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is going to be number 1.
No.
Because I couldn't finish it. At least with those other movies, when I watched the first time, I managed to finish it. I had to turn this film off. Now, having seen it all the way through, I don't think it is number 1. Because I actually think there is some good in there. I think it's in the middle third.
About here, but probably top middle.
Oh yeah, towards the top middle. Yeah, there's a part of me that wants to put it above Spider-Man 3. A friend of mine did text me when they saw our list and was like, "Man, Spider-Man 3's catching strays." And there's part of me that thinks it's unfair that Spider-Man 3 is fourth.
You know, I also agree, but at the same time, you can't discount Spider-Man 1 and 2 and how good it was. Yeah. And it's like, this is the disappointment.
It's a drop-off in quality.
And there is a lot wrong with that film when you watch it.
Yeah, when you do a scene-by-scene breakdown.
When you do the female reporter, it's the worst thing. Female reporter stuff might be the worst thing on anything here. But yeah, I think around here as well. I think around here.
I think we're in agreement.
Top middle.
Top middle, yeah.
Top middle or bottom top.
Honestly, this has got a bit of Danny Elfman's score from the 1989 Batman movie, and that score rocks. And so I can't, in all good conscience, say it's one of the worst movies ever made because I got to hear that score for a bit.
But we will decide that over at patreon.com/cutscene.
Yes, head on over there right now because there will be a scene-by-scene breakdown of the movie as we go through 2023's The Flash. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, last month was Suicide Squad, which equally had a very troubled production. And if I just can give a little tease, it's our longest episode over on Patreon as well. It was a 5-hour episode over at patreon.com/cutscene. Who knows how long this will be? Enjoy this clip. I believe David Ayer would prefer it if you did not call it David Ayer's 2016 Suicide Squad.
Sorry, Warner Bros. And the test screening audience's Suicide Squad.
I'm going to push back on that as well.
Interesting.
We'll come on to this in a little bit, but it's not fully... Well, do you know what? We'll get on